Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. This is your host, Craftsdwarf, and we are plugging along. And Mathwiz is here too.
This is gonna be fun. I'm gonna love this.
Oh boy. This is gonna be an interesting discussion because I don't have a lot of comments because I feel like most of the comments were predicting how we're going to feel about the next this stretch of chapters. To be fair, a lot of what we said was like, well, there's probably going to be some payoff eventually. We don't know what that payoff is, so we can only say so much. And now we get the payoff. We get things happening. So yeah, I don't think you have very many comments either. Do you want to start us off?
Well, there was just on the topic of predictions. I know that there was a comment in here from Austin K saying, "Oh boy, Gin is going to do something next arc. Time for Mathwiz to make an update to his top 10 characters list where every entry is Gin." I wish that was the case. I was really hoping for it.
So Raziel Evernight was talking about, or mentioned how around this time period, people were speculating like, oh, Ishin, he must be part of the Royal Guard. And it's just like, that's the thing with fan speculation is it doesn't age well. Like, I don't know about that prediction specifically, but like, because I remember seeing that shit with fucking One Piece and even Naruto, and it's just like people go on all these wild theories because you can only do that while the series is ongoing.
Yeah.
And Bleach is over now, so no one cares. But it's like, it's funny to look back at the old theories and be like, wow, that was way off. I don't know about this one specifically. I'm guessing it's off because otherwise they wouldn't have said it because it's a spoiler if it didn't happen. So it's like, I don't know, maybe the Royal Guard will come into play eventually. They didn't come into play this arc, but
I mean, theories and speculation can be fun, but I've never really been super invested in it. Like, I know, well, the anime's only now gotten to the fact that this twist is a thing, but My Hero Academia, there's the whole speculation on who's the UA traitor, and I just don't care. I'm just gonna wait until the story
see who it is.
Reveals it, because, like, I don't know, I just don't really care. I'd rather look for, like, the thematic character, explanations for a thing as to why this works.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is, it matters why it is.
Yeah. So, like, with Ishin being part of the Royal Guard or not, I don't know how that would affect his character.
Who gives a shit? Right, and then, what's worse, though, is when the theories aren't on the work itself, because I was just, when I read that comment, I actually thought about the fucking Madara Kaguya shit, where it's like, oh, Kishimoto didn't know how to beat Madara, so he created Kaguya, but it's like, okay, so there's a rumor, a speculation, but it's on, like, the actions of a real person and not the actions of a fictional character.
Yeah.
And so now you have... Because we've fucking tried. That we've found zero confirmation or denial of the rumor. Like, I've fucking... If anyone knows anything, please, because we want proof either way. But it doesn't exist because it's a stupid... Because I was looking around and I saw people saying the same shit, like, oh, Kishimoto killed Itachi off because Itachi was too strong. Like, basically the exact same rumor as Madara, but the difference is that Itachi's death makes total sense for the narrative of Naruto, and people who say that are just fucking stupid. So it's like, the only difference is with the Madara Kaguya stuff is that the death doesn't make as much sense for the narrative of Naruto, so it becomes a more believable rumor, even though they're both equally from the same source.
And even then, like, you can look into the narrative of the series and try to find, like, I could see why this rumor would be true, but there's nothing to support it. It's never going to be anything more than a rumor, and it's frustrating.
Yeah. Especially
like the thing where people would say that, the Bleach manga was canceled, but apparently no, Kubo ended it on his own terms. He just, as much of on his own terms as he could with having, the health of a mangaka.
Right. Which is not always stable. So that was the only comment I had to respond to. Not that there weren't good ones, like one had a really long one, but there was lots of clarifications on other, stuff that, we were probably wrong on. Apparently I spoiled something on accident, which means... Maybe I misspoke. I don't know.
That's the funny thing.
I didn't want to ask.
I saw that comment and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about, so I'm just
I don't either, so I didn't spoil anything on purpose. I just was accidentally right, I suppose. Well, I mean, there was one thing I was accidentally right about before. We'll get to that.
There was an interesting comment by, I gotta make sure I pronounce this right. Is it Karabay197? Talking about the Vizards and how they're not really necessary to the story, and I kind of agree, Because, I mean, in this arc, it seemed like this was going to be their payoff, like they finally get something to do. And not a whole lot happened with them. They were just kind of there to
I guess
have
they're not
more
important
fights.
to the story if you remove the one thing they did for the story. But, like, why would you dismiss that? They were important. Sure, they were more important in the Arrancar arc than they were the fake Karakura town, but so?
Yeah. See, like, I mean, like, I think the backstory is kind of important to the story, but I don't know, they just didn't really...
Urahara being kicked out, but but I can understand being disappointed if you think they're meant to be something more, but like...
Or even, I wasn't
I
expecting much out of all of them. Really, I thought, like, maybe Shinji would kind of be the only one who got something, but he didn't really have much to do here.
Well, he got a little thing with Aizen, but it's just sort of continuing their old thing, rather, because the whole... Like, back in the Swing Back the Pendulum, he was like... oh yeah, Aizen, I've known about you since before you were born, or whatever. He was like, I'm above you, you ain't shit. And then, but it turns out Aizen does know shit. And that sort of returned a little bit here with, I think, with their brief encounter. But, not major, but it's not like, it's fine.
For me, though, I did kind of feel like... Last stretch of chapters, I was complaining about the stretch of uninteresting fights, and there was a little bit of that with, like, the Vizards, because all these Gillians showed up for... I don't know, it just felt like we kind of put the fight on pause, and there was, like, a chapter where...
It was we have to... showing off the Vizards doing cool shit,
even though we already knew that they were... I guess to put things in perspective, so I can kind of understand it, like, what their power is, but knowing that they're, like, former captains, and now they've also been hollowified, I feel like... You could kind of assume a little... I don't know. Then again, this is a shonen manga. It's aimed at younger viewers, so maybe just to hammer that home. So, like, I don't know. It just felt like an unnecessary chapter to me, but I don't know. I can see why it was there.
Reading it weekly, I would have been like, oh, okay. But reading it... Like, that's the thing, is like... Because, again, it's... this is another, like, fucking 80 chapters or so. This was a big... This was a longer stretch of chapters than anything we read for Naruto. Probably
80
but
chapters.
It was
we read like
than anything
100.
we read for Naruto. 100 was it?
Yeah, we read 107 chapters. 316 to 423, unless I miscounted my numbers.
Yeah, but over 100. You're right. Yeah, it didn't feel like 100 chapters. I split it into 2 days, but it was even then. It was like only a couple hours of reading each day. Like that's not a lot for 100 chapters. Like for when I was rereading One Piece, 100 chapters a day was the whole day. Like
yeah.
Because it's dense. Naruto was probably the same way. Like, for like 50 chapters. Like there were some long stretches, but it was a good day of reading.
Yeah, it again goes back to how Kubo will structure his chapters. Like there's a lot of just big sort of like spreads of characters attacking or facial expressions or whatnot. So some of that is pretty easy.
Like the thing with the Vizards. Like sure they're not doing anything important. It just looks cool, but it's one chapter. Like, in one chapter out of 100, like, I'm not gonna fucking sit here and bitch about that. Like, I could bitch about, like, a bad arc in Naruto, like, with the fucking Kyuubi training. Like, it was a short arc, but it wasn't very, like, I see what he was going for, and there were okay parts about it, but overall, it was, like, the weakest arc in the series. So, yeah, that's a different sense of scale than just a chapter. If you dislike the whole arc, that's fine, but we'll get into that.
Well, even then, for me, like, just that one chapter was just kind of, like, an addition to a problem I've already had. So I guess, like, no need to dwell on it, but also, still showing that the issue I had before is still happening. Sorry, I cut you off.
Structure earlier, and I realized reading this stretch of chapters, because the way he does his title pages, where he'll do a few pages of the chapter, and then he'll do, like, the title page. Well, there was one chapter where he sort of had almost a cliffhanger right before the title page, but it was like a cliffhanger, like just a few pages into the chapter. So that doesn't work weekly. But if you're reading the whole volume, it makes perfect sense because it feels like that's the end of the chapter almost, and then you get a new chapter. Like it's almost like he tunes it so that it makes for the better volume reading experience.
Interesting.
So I feel like Kubo's like, if you read this weekly, I'm sorry, because I couldn't imagine. I would not be a fan reading it weekly.
Absolutely
but,
not.
Reading it in volumes, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, because that's my thing with Bleach right now is like the thing I want most is to just fucking finish it because I know I can just go finish the last like fucking 250 chapters in like a day or two easily, but I can't because we're doing it for the Nen Show. And I think I had more to say, but I'll say it later because I guess we can get into the actual discussion. So yeah, back to where, above fake Karakura town, Aizen and gang comes out, and Yamamoto immediately shuts them down for a bit, just to get Aizen out of the fighting, I imagine, while Ichigo's heading towards Huakamundo to get Orihime. Just kind of setting up for what's to come. Okay, and then you get some dramatic arrivals, and I'm like, oh, Chad, that's right. He's fine. I guess he's just fine now. I guess he's just okay. Did that make you turn your head a little bit?
Well, I know he got healed by what's her name.
Oh, did he? I forgot. Okay.
Yeah, because she showed up to him and
okay, that's fair.
Kurosuchi.
Oh, I don't remember that part. So okay, no, I take it back. It's fine. Because I was like, because the last thing I remember happening to Chad was him getting destroyed by one of the Espada, but I forgot that he got healed. I take it back. I was ready to shit on this moment. Never mind. But yeah, well, it's like, because they got the fight against this guy, the horned dude, and who can keep growing with new guys, and like it just kind of felt like it was giving them something to do, while Ichigo was doing his own thing, to kind of keep them out of the Ulquiorra fight, Yeah. I mean, not that it, the way they won was fine, the branches, and Rukia froze the branches, that makes sense, but So yeah, Ichigo bumps into, or, gets face to face with Ulquiorra, and then back in fake Karakura town, the fucking old dude takes control of the Arrancar while Aizen's indisposed, and then we get a little string of fights with some of the lieutenants defending the pillars, which I thought this was fine, since it sort of maintains a bit of tension, I suppose, because now it's like, it's not just like, oh, they lose and then the Aizen's guys can do what they want. It's now there's a smaller scale, more immediate danger, basically. So because now what's happening to these pillars, because if the pillars get destroyed, Karakura town comes back and everything's fucked. So I was fine with the idea, because it made sense.
I mean, there were things I liked about these fights, or at least some of them, and then there were things that I disliked, like the fact that the Soul Reapers and the Arrancar, or the Espada, were just kind of watching on as these. It's like
that
at the
cliffhanger
me
until after the fights, and they were just like standing in the air, and I'm like, oh, were you guys just like chilling the whole time? Like maybe the fights were just really fast, but it's also like. Yeah, that bugged me a little bit too, because I'm like, you guys were just doing nothing. Okay.
This continued the trend of, we leave off on like things are starting to get interesting, and then as soon as we go back to reading, it's uninteresting. Well, not totally uninteresting, because these fights weren't entirely pointless. There were some, well, at least I had hope that there was some good little character sort of, how do I want to say it? It's like characterization through the former captain's squad's fighting style. So like with what's his name, Gin's subordinate, you saw how
Izuru?
Izuru, he was talking about like how fighting shouldn't be like glorious, or people shouldn't enjoy it, it's something to be feared. And that's a bit of an insight into Gin's character, because he was the squad leader, or the company leader, so that his subordinates would fight in this way, it's obviously something that was imparted onto them from Gin himself, so that was a little bit of interesting.
And it's interesting in retrospect when you consider Gin himself, because like I like the way. Well, should I get into that now? Yeah, I think I will. Fuck it. Like, it's fine to be a little non-linear. It's just a bunch of fights. Well, because I liked when Gin was fighting Ichigo, and Ichigo is like, I don't get you. Like, normally he fights people, and he understands them through battle in some way, or he comes to know them, but Gin, he didn't make any sense of. So, but the whole thing with Gin is that he's kind of dishonest, because he's hiding some things.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's no honesty or truth in his sword, so why would Ichigo be able to find it? Like, he's just fighting a guy who's fighting him for the sake of fighting him. Like, there's no honesty. So it makes sense. And then, well, because now I'm thinking about the fear thing, and I'm like, Gin's kind of a creepy guy, so is that how he actually feels? Or, like, was that sort of the ideals from the previous third captain? I wonder, like, just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I would like to think that there was... See, I'll wait, because I have complaints about this, but at the time of reading that chapter, I thought there was potential for Gin's, character exploration there. And there was something similar with Tosen, his second in command. There was there was a mini fight for him protecting the pillar, and he was talking about, continuing with this idea of fear, rather than like the fear of fighting, it's the fear of one's own abilities, or the fear of, you know, the strength of your blade or your enemy's power or whatever. So that was interesting to dig into Tosen's character, and maybe there's kind of a, you know, Aizen's two subordinates, maybe there's kind of a parallel between them to some extent. Now that you mention it, this arc definitely, it has a bit of a almost an anti-violence bend to it. Like, they don't the characters aren't really trying to glorify what they do. Like, you should fear battle. You're killing people, and then they say towards the end, like, oh, going to war, it means both sides are evil, kind of thing. Like, there's no. But at the same time, the fights are presented in a really cool way, and I'm not sure how much I'm. Well, it was kind of interesting when we would get to Tosen's fight later. He was talking about like the fear of dying as a Soul Reaper, and I immediately thought, you know, like, who do I think of when I think of a Soul Reaper? I was thinking of somebody like, you know, Kenpachi, who lives to fight, or Ikkaku, these guys who, you know, really enjoy fighting, and that's kind of their characterization, is just they fight and they like fighting. And so to see somebody like, you know, to have this sort of anti-violence ideas popping up through sort of... See, it doesn't entirely work, though, because you did have some people on the Soul Society side who were also talking about, like, anti-violent ideals, which... doesn't work as well as it could.
Maybe anti-violence is the wrong thing. It's less an anti-glorification of battle.
Yeah.
Is what they're not... Like, it's not like, they're fighting, they need to fight, they're not shying away from that, but they're also admitting, like, this isn't the best way to do things. Like, but that's what they have to, they're warriors, so it's kind of, they're aware of the danger, and they're not trying to act as heroes, they're just doing their duty, basically. Well, because that's the thing I thought of, is you do have these differing sides within this one organization, and that's what happened during Soul Society. You had these differing ideologies, and so when they were challenged by Ichigo, everything started to fall apart for the group, in a way. I mean, it came back together because fucking Aizen, but yeah, it's cool.
And then I guess one other, because really, there's not much to say about fights, so for me to kind of just jump between these miniature fights, it just kind of works, because there's not much else to say about them. But then there was also the thing with Ikkaku, where he got beaten because he held back and because he wasn't...
Right, well, because he mentions directly the thing that I knew about, but was kind of only implied, or up to this point, where the 11th squad isn't allowed to use their Shikai or Bankai, because they're seen as cowards, basically. Because Kenpachi doesn't do it, so why does anyone else need to?
Yeah,
fucking Kenpachi.
And there was that similar thing with the fifth seat guy, and I mean...
Yeah, who was in Soul Society, he didn't use his Shikai until he was able to, and then Ikkaku didn't use his, and then
here we found out that it was actually not the real Shikai that was brought out before, but it was like a fake, because called the sword the wrong name, and so it wasn't the full power. It's fine. It's a little weird, but it's fine.
Okay. I mean, the way I saw it with that fight, him against Charlotte, was that... Oh yeah, real quick. Last episode I missed two teleports. Grimjo in the Ichigo fight, they both teleported behind each other, so Grimjo behind Ichigo and Ichigo behind Grimjo. And then in this, Yumi Chika teleported behind Charlotte, so yeah, that happened. But I don't know, the way I saw it, because their whole thing was about beauty, and they both had these completely different ideas of beauty. What did you think of Charlotte's beauty?
I didn't care for this fight. I didn't need to, like, what does beauty have to do with the themes of the arc? Like, in what way?
Not really. Not the whole arc, but just the characters. Well, I thought it was funny when he transformed, not because I thought it was funny, but because I thought about how you would react to it, and that made it funny.
I just didn't...
What did you think of Charlotte's transform design?
I didn't really care. I just wanted the fight to be over.
You wanted your life to be over. No, it's fine.
I mean, that was definitely the least interesting fight of the three. Like,
well, I don't know. I got a little something out of it, because the way I saw it was that Charlotte, he lost because... I mean, this whole thing is about beauty, but he lost because he covered it. He hid everything in shadow, and so you know, he made it his beauty something impossible to see. So it's like, oh, okay, sure, that's why he lost, I guess. So yeah, but no, I totally get it. It was a fight,
and it's again coming off of, you know, where we had just built up to. It's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's just because this arc is so long that, you know, you hit these high points in tension. Like, you have Aizen's group facing off with all the captains, and then we cut away to these not even assistant captain fights, because they weren't all assistant captains, but I didn't feel like this fight needed to happen. Like, I guess it was kind of cool, the beauty versus beauty thing, but I don't feel like it really added anything to the arc.
No, that's fair. It's like, well, Kubo wants to give, like, all of his characters some spotlight. Every single fucking one. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. And he damned if he doesn't try. Like, I mean, yeah, maybe you could have stood to cut it back, like, if he'd, did the same thing with Izuru, where he just didn't show the fight, but then, I don't know, like, again, it's like, reading it in a volume, it's just like, it's a few chapters, I can go by it, but, and then on to another fight. Maybe this one will be better, maybe it'll be worse, you know?
Reading Bleach has definitely kind of recontextualized some of my prior comments about Naruto, the cast of Naruto, how, you know, having such this large cast that not everyone gets something to do, but with Bleach, it's like he tries to give... This is what it looks like if they all get something to do. And it doesn't work, it kills the pacing, so, you know, I do, to an extent, take back what I said. Like, there are still characters who can be characterized better in Naruto, but that doesn't mean that everybody had to get... Because we had talked about it in some of the arcs, like the Sasuke retrieval arc, where the fights just weren't really interesting. It was just the characters doing things, and then new characters would pop up to kind of... Felt like it was padding things out, like Kimimaro versus Rock Lee. It wasn't super interesting. So then you kind of get that... Yeah. I did say this about the last part of the arc, but it continues here, that it just feels like the worst parts of the Sasuke retrieval arc. Not all the time, but I will
say that the fights are faster to read, but there are more of them, so it's like... I don't know, they're kind of like the same issue, but on the completely opposite sides of having a big cast. Naruto has a big cast and doesn't do much with a lot of it, and Bleach has a big cast and tries to do everything.
Yeah.
Man.
And I am aware that part of the issue is that we're reading it all together, but even then, like, I can't imagine having much of a...
No, I don't think it would be better with, like...
No, because even if we weren't...
Weekly? No.
Yeah, because reading this weekly would have been a killer, because you get, you know, a bit of a fight here, and then, okay, next week, wait for another...
Like, really, the only fix is for us being more invested in these side characters and fights, and for the authors trying to make a way to make them all good. Like, that's the fail. Like, not that they're bad, it's just like I don't know, I didn't mind having so many, because again, like, if I didn't like this one, I could just move on to the next one. But
well, for me, I see it as the
negative doesn't really register for me.
Well, for me, I see it like I don't want to just skip over parts of the story, and so I kind of just want Kubo to get to the point, and he doesn't always do that. So, like, even if I read this stretch of chapters over the course of a week or 2 weeks, I would still be kind of waiting, like, okay, when are we gonna get to, you know...
Oh no, it would be worse weekly. Holy shit, way worse.
But yeah, so I guess like perhaps there's a little bit of setup going on here, like for Ikkaku, like the thing with holding back, maybe, because I wonder what is left at the end of this arc, like, to continue the story. So perhaps, you know, there's a little bit of Ikkaku's characterization that can be revisited. Maybe the same with the fifth seat guy.
Yeah, that's the thing, is everyone's going to, like, a lot of these characters are going to show up again. Well, it's like the guy, the fucking guy with the tattoos on his face, not Izuru. That's the white-haired.
The tattoos and the scar.
The dark-haired guy with this. Yeah, like him. It's like he showed up and turned back the pendulum. He was like a kid, and I didn't know who he was at all. And I looked him up, and he's like, "Oh, it's that guy."
Yeah, I kind of thought that was him.
So not all these characters register for me.
That's the interesting thing about the turn back the pendulum. Like that plot line is that some of these people weren't around when that happened, but some of them were. Although I don't remember which all were and weren't, but it's interesting to see how that sort of affects their interactions.
Yeah. Well, because the weird thing with Soul Reaper ages is that they're like it's just weird. Like Hitsugaya wasn't there and turned back the pendulum because he's like a kid, but he's probably actually like 80 or something like that. So who knows? And well, speaking of names, the fucking the Arrancars. I have trouble remembering their names, which is funny that I have a little bit easier time remembering the Japanese ones than I do the more Hispanic inspired ones. So I don't know what to take from that personally. Though as far as characters getting more screen time, I was actually pretty satisfied with Komamura, I think, or the fox dude. Like, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was part of one of the most interesting fights.
Komamura, excuse me. And the later one against Tosen too, I liked. So I guess, do we have anything more to say about the fights against those 4 Arrancar, the pillar attack?
Nope. Just like I was when reading them, I'm ready to move on.
Okay, so yeah, there was a little bit of thing that everyone was standing around, but which is like, I mean, I get it, because the issue is everything becomes cluttered, and then it's like well, because what would happen is like, okay, like you get this I'm looking at this 2-page spread of all the characters, they're getting ready to fight, and it's like, yeah, he could have done that like just as the pillars were being attacked, but then you're like, then you get the fucking third Hokage shit where you're waiting for the, like, they're just like doing things and other things are happening, and like, I don't know, it's difficult to balance stuff like that with because you're inevitably going to focus on one side for quite a bit. So it's like, it's hard to manage. So I get it. It's like, it's just, there's a little bit of the head scratching moment where it's like, oh, you guys were just standing there. Okay. But other than that, it's like, whatever. It's honestly, and like looking through, I'm like realizing like some of these fights that are getting set up don't get like resolved for fucking ages. Like, god damn, like Hitsugaya and the fucking third Espada. Like, God, that one took a while to resolve. Like a lot of these did. So it's just like the length is just, there's so much of the characters getting spotlight. It's, again, it's technically so much happening, but is it? Because yeah, there's not a lot to take from all these fights. So I didn't mind the Omaida, the big dude in the remote division, kind of being a sneaky dude, because he's like, I don't know, he's like a coward. He's a bit like you wouldn't know Usopp.
No,
maybe.
I mean,
or what? Oh wait, did you read that far?
I don't. I read the first 3 volumes. He might have showed up at the end, unless it's a completely different character. But I kind of understand what you're talking about, like dude, with the,
he's like a cowardly, tricked you, gotcha kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's like this huge dude, so there's a little bit of a dissonance there. Like he's a big coward, which is a little interesting. I don't know, he's fine. And then with the elephant dude, he's a bit of comedy relief here too, just I guess a bit, which is like fine. I don't mind it. I don't know. People are like, oh, the tone, the dissonance, and I don't really care.
See,
the only time tone shifts really take me out of it is if it's something like too far outside of like to give an example, in one of the episodes of Lupin the Third Part 4, there's one episode where it's like this Lupin's on a date with like 2 girls at a wine tasting thing, and there's this special wine that makes people fall in love, and it's this goofy episode. And then you find out at the end that the wine was brewed with the dead wife of the winemaker in the barrel, and this gets like completely brushed off by all the characters, and I'm like, what the fuck? They were drinking dead people? What the fuck? Like, it was just fucking horrifying, and it doesn't get brought up at all. Like, that's the kind of shit that takes me out of it. Like, it's gotta be that dissonant for me to get, like this is just like goofy antics and a cool shonen thing. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, how did you feel about it?
Well, I know I did have a problem with it, but I know it's nothing, like, inherent to, like... Because before, I had praised Kubo for having good tonal balance, and so I'm not really doubling back on that. It's just... I have to be invested in, like, what's...
Where it's like, oh, this humor was out of place.
It wasn't like the humor was out of place, but it was, I wasn't, like... I've realized that, like, to be invested in the comedy, I need to be invested in... the things that are happening, and when I'm already at the point where I just want Kubo to get to the point, adding in the little the little levity breaks, I'm just like, no. So like it's nothing. It's nothing like if I was invested in the story, I wouldn't have a problem with the levity here, even if the humor didn't hit me. It's just that it's very much a me thing. You're not gonna spend the effort to get frustrated over it when you just want to move on. Because I didn't mind it at all. I didn't find it particularly funny either. I was just thinking about it as I was going through, and so the only reason I minded the comedy was just because it felt like, because I already wasn't a huge fan of the pacing, so the comedy is just also part of that. So it's not like I disliked the comedy for being comedy, it was that I disliked it because I just wanted Kubo to get to the point.
Oh yeah, so anyway, moving. Yeah, Soifon and them fought for a bit. I did like how Soifon did her trick with her hornet, because she has to sting the same place twice, but she did it by like stinging him from opposite sides, and where the wounds like crossed inside of him counted as two hits to the same spot. I was like, oh, that's a cool little thing. Yeah, that's all I had to say on that. Oh yeah, and fucking Hinamori comes in. I didn't expect that. She's back, and I don't know, well, because it's like she doesn't really get a whole lot of closure, because they're like, oh, you might not have noticed, like, you said that Aizen's the enemy, but you still called him Captain. And there is a scene that happens with her later that's a bit of a meme. It's a bit of a meme. Well, because that's the thing I was realizing reading these chapters is
that Aizen is just a walking meme?
No. I've mentioned it to you in private. It's that when these chapters were new, I was on 4chan at the time, so I'd see people talking about these chapters, and now I know what's happening. I know, like, oh, that's why this panel, like the panel of Hinamori getting stabbed by Hitsugaya, that was like a big meme for a while. People were making fun of it, I guess. I just thought it was funny, and because it was shocking. And because I read it and I was like, oh shit, when it actually happened, I got a good reaction out of it. But like, I've recognized that image. I've seen that image for years now. I mean, I haven't seen it like consistently for years, but I've known of it for years, and now I know the context of it, like, finally. And one fight in particular that got a lot of shit was the one against the second Espada, the skeleton dude. Because people think it's stupid, but reading it, I'm like, oh, no. Everyone else is stupid, but we'll get to that later. Why are Shounen fans so wrong all the time, Mathwiz?
I'm interested to know what the criticism of that fight was.
I'll explain it, because it's so stupid.
Oh, no.
And there's another moment, too, where someone on Curious Cat told me, like, people think this about this line of dialogue, so I'll explain it to you, and I got it the moment I read it, but then, like, the fact that someone felt the need to explain it because other people didn't get it, I was like, are you fucking kidding? Why are Shonen fans so dumb and wrong all the time? No, it's I say it as a Shonen fan, so obviously tongue-in-cheek there. So yeah, I think the 8th captain guy, the dude with the soccer pedals and the straw hat, you know, he was doing things, and the 13th captain was doing things. They were around. Oh yeah, and then you got the fucking Chimera. What did you think about him? Ion.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the first thing he fucking does is take a chunk out of Matsumoto, and that was fucking gory as shit, and I was like, oh shit, like, I don't know, and then some of the fucking, like, one of the title pages, he just looked fucking horrifying. Like, I don't know, I like how he was presented.
Yeah, stating my opinion on this person would just be repeating myself.
Okay, you don't care. Gotcha. And then, of course, Yamamoto just comes in and he's like, no. You didn't have an opinion on that? Yamamoto being fucking boss?
Well, I mean, that was...
I don't know, like, it didn't, I don't think it happened at this point, but when the old dude takes off his fucking shirt, like, you know shit's gotten real.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought of, like, Whitebeard from One Piece and Netero, like, that kind of shit. It's always the coolest shit when the old dude gets serious, and it's like, yeah. I mean, this wasn't that part, but...
I mean, like, I didn't have a super huge problem with the monster personality-less character, because, I mean, it was also kind of a recurring thing with a couple of enemies that the old guy ended up fighting, that, you know, he was going up against these sort of tools that were just created to fight with no real emotion or anything, and so that was an interesting idea that kept popping up. I guess it...
I mean, one bit of, unused... Like, well, because the 3 Chimera ladies who made him, they were talking about how he's, like, he was weird, he creeps them out, like, he's really, like... So they're kind of building up, like, oh, maybe he's going to turn on them and fight Arrancar, because he's just so wild, but that didn't actually happen, so there was a bit of a potential build up to a payoff that didn't happen, which there's more of that to talk about later. Poor Orihime.
There's a lot to talk about with, you know, potential build up to not payoffs. That was English. Moving on.
Yep, moving on. I'm trying to find out what happens next because it keeps bouncing around. Because I guess we're starting to get into Ichigo versus Ulquiorra.
I thought it was interesting, like, the placement of this fight, because...
Well, there's a bunch of, like, the fake Karakura Town stuff, and then it goes back to Ichigo finally, so, yeah.
I don't know, I guess I thought there would be, like, more of a... I mean, not that I'm complaining that, you know, Kubo got to the point with this fight. I guess I thought, like, because Ulquiorra had kind of appeared at the beginning of the arc, that... Kind of like what happened with, Byakuya in the Soul Society, how, you know, he showed up at the very beginning and was kind of there to sort of... near the end.
Yes, he was the final boss for Ichigo.
Yeah.
Well, with Ulquiorra, he was he showed up first, but he was not the final boss for Ichigo. So, yeah.
Not that I was complaining, though, because, I mean, God forbid Ichigo had to fight more people to even get back to Ulquiorra. I don't need more fights. I'm glad this happened when it did.
Also, Ulquiorra teleported behind Ichigo not once, but twice. Lots of teleports this stretch of chapters. But yeah, I will say, like, one thing I like... See, the thing about this fight is, like... Well, because I mean, I kind of liked what it was... I think it was trying to do. I say trying to do because I'm not quite sure how it succeeded. But it's like, all the chapters is, like, the envy, the gluttony, the greed. And it's like, so in each... Like, for the most... Like, I didn't notice if every single one of them came into that chapter. And if it did, like, maybe I was just misinterpreting things or something. Because I did... But it's like... But the way it's like... What kind of happens is you have like some character who's there doing the thing, and then it's like Yami comes in during the chapter of the greed, and he wants to fight. You know, he's you could say he's greedy for a fight. But then it's like, and then the first chapter, the envy, it's like you have the female Arrancars who are, you know, they have their envy regarding Orihime. But the thing is that Ulquiorra, maybe not all of them, but for some of them, he also exemplifies that sin. Like with Yami, he was like, no, I want to fight Ichigo. And then, you know, stuff or I didn't notice it for every single one, but for a few of them I was like, huh, Ulquiorra is the one exemplifying. Like, so because I feel like how that ties into the whole idea of the fight is sort of the hearts. Well, and then, you know, the human animal thing has been brought up a lot. Not that I have like a full analysis of that idea, but like, I don't know, the way I see it is that Ulquiorra is, as he was fighting Ichigo, he's sort of like, you know, there was a bit of a connection, like, which is what the heart is, as defined by Rukia, a connection between two people, basically. And so, you know, sort of as they fight, they achieve that connection, basically, and you know, that's sort of the end of the fight. That infamous page of him, it was translated differently, but it was just the one page with just text on it. So yeah, I was fine with that idea.
I'm guessing something with Ulquiorra's character just went over my head, because I feel like there was, with the whole setup of like the 7 deadly sins, and like Ulquiorra, I guess, was kind of like, you know, perhaps more human than the other Arrancars, or, you know, had some sort of desire to be more human, or I don't know. There's
he was definitely like, because the thing is like, so many of the Arrancars are like subservient to Aizen, but like with the second one, he was the like in his last moment he tried to attack Aizen with the axe, but with the Ulquiorra he had a second transformation. Like, he had stuff he was hiding from Aizen, but he's also still following his rules. Like, he goes above the canopy, so I don't know, he's a little bit different.
Well, and then of course there's the whole dynamic Ulquiorra had with Orihime, that, you know, it seemed like there was something more to his character, and I'm sure that there is, I just didn't really pick up on it. But like, if I revisited Bleach, maybe I'd find it.
Maybe, yeah, because that's... Well, I don't know. Well, because, see, a lot of... Like, I've gotten comments and Curious Cat questions with people coming at me with better analysis than I ever got for Naruto. Like, let's just say that. Like, no one's really come up to us with, like, here, let's make some really good reason points about Naruto. Because, like, it's been us making the good points about Naruto. Finally. Like, not that we haven't been wrong on a bunch of shit, but especially, like, in our private conversations where we're coming to even deeper realizations, like, yeah, I could safely say that very few people understand Naruto as the series better than us. But for Bleach, I don't feel that way at all, because, like, I've been getting some good, interesting points, and so I'm wondering, like, is there, like, good Bleach analysis out there somewhere? Or do people just, like, do we have listeners who just know their shit? And I'm like, I'm interested. But, because that's the thing is I feel like... Yeah, I don't fully get Bleach, basically, you know, and not that it's like the thing with I was just talking about with the heart and the, because obviously he named it. I thought it was interesting, the naming scheme of the chapters, because he gave them all this distinction, and then I noticed that they were kind of popping up in the chapters, like this chapter, the sloth. I didn't understand how sloth fit into that one, but I also don't know exactly how Kubo was interpreting the sin. So, because that's the thing. It's like you're dealing with a Christian idea in the Hispanic themed arc of a Japanese manga. So it's kind of understandable that a couple things might get lost in translation. That's being translated to English, mind. So, because I feel like somewhere, somehow, like some people have really dug into it. Because I keep hearing interesting things about Bleach. Like someone linked me a college paper about the Buddhist symbolism and uses in Bleach that I haven't read yet because I haven't finished Bleach. Like I just want to fucking finish Bleach. Because like that's my thing. Is just like I feel like at the end of the day I'm going to like Bleach less than One Piece and Naruto.
Oh, absolutely.
But like Bleach is kind of like I kind of, even though I won't like it as much as like Naruto, because it has less problems than Naruto. Like Naruto does a lot of interesting things, but like there was so much about Naruto. Like with Bleach, it's like I don't like this thing. Like it's not that much is wrong with it. Like there are problems, sure, that we've talked about, but it's like with Naruto we had long contiguous discussion. Like how long were we beating up kicking the elemental system? Like it was completely unnecessary. So we'd rag on it every time it came up. But Bleach, like it's like, oh, the fights are long. And there's a lot of them, and Khan isn't very funny. Like, how much is there to really say? Like, Bleach isn't as interesting, or I should say, in the ways that it fails, so to speak. Like, and some of it is like, if people like all these characters, then they're not going to have the same problems we do, or you do, or I do, or whatever. With there's too many fights. Like, if they like the characters, then there's no problem, So it's like Bleach is like, it's cool and interesting. And I'm curious as to see what other people have to say on it, because it's not necessarily my thing, is kind of my final point. Is like if Bleach was my thing, yeah, like I'd totally get why someone would love it dearly. But, it's not. I really appreciate it for what it does, and I enjoy it. Like, I'm sitting here, like, I like it more. I seem to like it more than you, at least. And I'm reading it, I read it, I have a good time when I read it, and it's cool. But it's like, it's not the series I'm going to be doing a 20 video series about, For you, it might be Naruto. For me, it'll be One Piece. But for neither of us, it will be Bleach. Like, I might do a video, but, for someone else is going to do the 20 video series on it, is what I'm trying to say. So,
and I was talking to you, and I was also talking a bit to Ember Reviews, who has also been kind of making videos about Naruto lately. And the one thing I'd really love to see is somebody, even though I don't personally, like, there was a video by Soul that I watched earlier today called, it's Bleach, a wasted masterpiece. I don't think there's nearly enough there to call it a masterpiece, but I do think that there's, there is potential in Bleach, and I do think some of the elements are executed well. And for all the videos and like all the articles out there that exist talking about how bad Bleach is, I want to see somebody dig into the good that Bleach presents, because there is stuff here. But
because like the only video I know of is, I vaguely remember Super Eye Patch Wolf's. I watched it. I don't remember anything he said. And then there was another one about the danger of losing your themes, and I now disagree with that video. Like, especially like reading the Tosen fight and seeing how much grief has affected his character. It's like Bleach. I don't think Bleach lost that idea really. So I do want to. Because that video ended on the conclusion that the first arc of Bleach had the themes of grief, and then the Soul Society doesn't. So Bleach is worse for losing its theme, but it really doesn't, because like I forget if I mentioned this in an earlier episode or to you or to someone else, but it's like the thing is that the Soul Reapers are not antagonists. Like the Hollows are, have the, they're tied down by their griefs because they're antagonists, but the Soul Reapers, well, they are antagonists, but they're not villains. Like, they're the ones who are, like, Byakuya has his grief, Tosen has his grief. Like, they're protagonists. They're just against the main characters for an arc. Like, so, and that video sort of treated them as if they were supposed to be, like, extensions of the Hollows, when they're coming at the theme from a whole different angle. So I feel like the video kind of missed the mark in retrospect. So, and I don't know, I have other good things to say. Well, because, okay, I guess back to the Ulquiorra fight. Is fucking Ichigo goes into his fucking berserk hollow mode. What did you think about that? Because I thought it was fucking terrifying.
What
was that? You cut out.
That's because I'm trying to figure out what I want to say.
Okay. Well, I guess to say my piece on it is, like, the thing is like, because we've talked about earlier how, like, oh, Ichigo is apparently an automatically worse character than Luffy or Naruto because he doesn't have an active goal. He's got a passive goal to protect his comrades. And my stance on that has always been like, if his character gets exploration, it's fine. And here it fucking is. He's been so consumed by his desire to protect Orihime that he turns into a fucking monster. Like, he's no longer, like, he's protecting her, but it's no longer on his own power. So there's an extra nuance added to his goal. Like, it's no, like, because the thing that people, that I had to get clarified on, I didn't have to get clarified. Someone felt the need to clarify me on because people don't get it. Because after he defeated Ulquiorra, Ichigo said that he didn't want to win this way, which, obviously, like, he wanted to win on his own power. He wanted to protect Orihime on his own power, not on this fucking monster's hollow form.
Yeah.
But some people will point at that and say, well, Ichigo said that he wanted to win, so it doesn't, like, as if it doesn't matter how he won, it's just that he did win, so he shouldn't, like, oh, Kubo had no idea what he's, like, no, it's fucking obvious what he meant.
Well, yeah, because
I was like, how did people misunderstand?
Ichigo did a very non-Ichigo thing in that, like, he was completely destroying Ulquiorra. He like blew off the lower half of his body. It looked like he was gonna like stab him in the throat. Like, he was out to, like, you know, dismantle him, destroy him, and that's not an Ichigo thing. Like, he was
right, and that's why it was fucking.
Oh, and also,
like, I was like tense, like, reading the whole thing, because I was like, holy fucking shit, he's just a monster.
Well, yeah, and
he's not Ichigo at all.
Well, yeah, because you even have the moment where Ishida tries to stop him, like, hey, this isn't what you want to do, and then Ichigo just stabbed him, and yeah,
it's fucking brutal.
So, I mean,
also he teleports behind Ulquiorra. Just throwing that there, but yeah, it's go on.
So yeah, I mean, I got what Kubo was going for here. I guess I just wished it was explored a little more.
Well, it
like,
was
after the fact,
in
I mean.
Aizen stuff.
Like, it was explored after the fact. Like, he was struggling to holofy after this because he was afraid of...
This is the low point of the arc for Ichigo. This is the end of Act 2 for him. He's... He protected Orihime, but he completely failed to sort of, like, or, follow his own version of his ideals. So he had to come to terms with that. So that's how I saw it. So, like, it's very obviously not the end. Like, it doesn't get more explored here because it's not supposed to.
Well, I didn't mean, like, in this fight. I meant just in the rest of the arc as a whole.
Well, it was, though. It was explored more. We'll talk about it when we get to Aizen, so, I don't know, maybe you'll feel differently.
Or maybe it's not that I had a problem with what happened with Ichigo, but maybe it was more that I was just hoping for something out of Orihime with this. God forbid Orihime have anything to do.
Yes, because that's the thing. That's what sort of how it ended up boiled down to, which is sad, because, like, I've talked about how, like, the Soul Society, her desire to fight, and, she wants to fight, but in her heart, she can't. Like, she couldn't deal a killing blow. And even in this fight, she put up some shields to try and help Ichigo, but it was completely useless because, well, it wasn't useless, but it didn't, she wasn't really able to help. But, she was only able to, like... This is why people say she's useless, because she's mostly there for Ichigo's sake. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, if this is supposed to be Orihime's arc, it ends up exploring Ichigo way more in the end. It's like, well, because earlier they set up she'll destroy the Hogyoku. But she doesn't destroy the Hogyoku. She doesn't come into contact with it at all. Okay.
Yeah, she never had really the chance to do anything there. And then here, it's set up like, oh my god, I've been so helpless that I forced Ichigo to go this far. Or, I was part of the reason why Ichigo underwent this monstrous transformation, so I need to step up and do more, and where was it? I mean, I think I might be maybe underselling her connection to Ulquiorra. Like, maybe there's more, like, maybe there's something with her interactions with him that sort of led to, like I was talking about his, but I don't even also fully understand Ulquiorra's, like, the humanity. Well,
like,
I could understand her not wanting to fight Ulquiorra or, do anything to really harm him, because again, there's some sort of dynamic between them that I'm not fully understanding, but I know there's something there. But like,
well, because like the way the Ulquiorra asks if Orihime is afraid of him, and she says she's not, and it's like, I don't understand the significance of that quite yet. Like, I might need someone to explain it to me. So so I did enjoy the fight. I don't think it was my favorite, like, conflict this arc, but like, and yeah, with Orihime, like, again, I don't know. I just said my piece. It's like, she didn't do any of the things I feel like she was being set up to do, but she did do, like, there was at least the connection with Ulquiorra, but I don't understand the significance of that yet. So,
I'm trying to think.
See, this
back
is why I say Bleach is just not my thing. Like, I like it, but I'm not the one who's gonna sit here and understand it all. Like, well, because to compare it to One Piece is I just put out like 2 videos talking about I put out a video in March dissecting the arc that just finished in One Piece because I understood it. And no one else did. But, like, if I was reading Bleach as it was going, and this stuff was happening, like, I don't understand it. So I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be the guy sitting there and explaining Bleach to everyone. I wouldn't be the guy sitting there being angry at Bleach for me not getting it. Like, I'd want to hear the explanation from someone who does. And that's kind of my issue with the people who read weekly shonen, is that they don't get it, and then they get angry for not getting it, but they instead of blaming themselves for not reading it correctly, they just think it's bad writing because the Dragon Ball is the only shonen story they understand. Like, at least we're willing to give it a shot, you know? Like, even though we don't get it, I want to know what at least Kubo was trying to do, because I feel like there's something there. But I'm not going to blame Kubo. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, Kubo's shit, he's a bad writer, I don't understand it, therefore it must be bad. No, I understand that I probably don't get it. And maybe I do get it, and there isn't anything more. And I'm just decided, I don't know. I need someone else to explain it to me. That's, seriously, if anyone in the comments, if you, like, I have the college paper, I'll link it in the description. If there's any other good Bleach analysis out there, like we've already talked about the Super Eye Patch Wolf video, the danger of losing your themes, the failed masterpiece, like, so we know about those 3. And then I'll link that college paper. If there's any other good Bleach analysis out there, let me know, because I'm curious about reading it after we finish, or watching it or whatever. So, because again, like I said, I've gotten some good replies and comments in Curious Cat and in the video comments. So someone out there knows Bleach. I just don't know who.
Just thinking more about Ulquiorra, because I know what was set up before was the thing about, you know, the Arrancars viewed Orihime as a monster because she showed compassion. So she was human while they were monsters, and so to them, she was the monster. So I wonder if there was something with Ulquiorra,
Ulquiorra ended
was he supposed to kind of, because with him being in a Espada, was he supposed to be kind of and the fact that he had like the second transformation, was he supposed to be like the ultimate sort of hollow, like the ultimate Arrancar, the ultimate monster, but even he had some sort of like humanity in there, and that's why Orihime didn't fear him? That's about the most I could maybe glean out of this.
Well, because you mentioned the girls, and it's like, yeah, they saw Orihime as different, and they rejected her, but Ulquiorra didn't. Like, he accepted... he accepted her as on their side even when she didn't. Like, he was like, you're on our side, you know? Like, he just accepted that as fact, even though Orihime was like, no. That's interesting that I think about it like that. So yeah, I don't think I personally have anything more to say. You know, I thought it was good. I hope eventually I will think it was great, because someone explained it to me properly. Did you have any more thoughts?
Not at the moment.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so moving on a bit, there's a bit more. Like, see, now what Kubo's kind of doing is he's doing a bunch of fights at once, I feel like, because I'm just, like, skimming through, and it's like, oh yeah, there's more of the Hitsugaya fight that we don't see the resolution of until later. There's some more of the fight against the wolf dude, the first Espada. And I'm trying to think if I have anything to say about, like, the Hitsugaya fight. Like, he's ice, she's water, they fight, she gets beaten by Aizen. Like, okay, I don't think I have anything more to say on that.
Yeah, like, the only thing I can't think of much for, like, character or, like, theme or anything with her. The only thing that I had talked to you about was I liked her design, in that she had, like, at least in black and white, she has, like, these really icy looking eyes. Like, she's got, like, the white eyebrows and, like,
okay.
You know, it just looks very icy. So, like, yeah, of course she, you know, with her fighting with Hitsugaya,
yeah.
How could I forget? So her fighting with Hitsugaya kind of played into that whole, like, water ice thing. But then in a full color, you know, in her volume cover, she's a blonde. So, like, there goes the whole icy look. Not that I have a problem with blondes, it's just, like, for that character.
It's not what you expected.
No, because...
Well, because that's the thing, it's like, in manga, there's only the 2 colors, the black, black, white, and all shades of gray. So it's like every character either has black hair or white hair. But white hair can be kind of anything. Like, black hair, you just expect it to be black, even though it can be a different color, like another dark color. But with white hair, it's fucking anime. It can be fucking rainbows, you know? You wouldn't know. And it's also like, the worst part is that, as you say, volume cover, but there's probably been a color spread that's had her on it. So you should have known her hair color for a lot longer, but you're reading the volume, so you only get the black and white color spreads. Yep. So there's no color. Like, we need someone to go into all these volume releases and just replace the black and white one with the actual color spread from the art book. Like, please? So we can get the actual good art. Just saying.
Yeah, that's so disappointing.
Anyway,
like,
I'm ready to move on.
Even if you own the physical volume, you're only going to get the black and white spread.
Right. Unless you buy the art books.
Yeah.
Like, because I own a couple of One Piece art books that have the color pages in their full glory. And I'm like, yes, thank you. But I don't get that from the volume. So I have to buy supplemental material to get the best experience, which is a shame. Because it's just unfeasible to stockpile fucking Shonen Jump volumes, honestly. And, I mean, even just, I think from a Japanese perspective, because they're so big, like, how much shelf space is a year's worth of Shonen Jump? Like, Jesus Christ. I don't want to imagine it. So anyway, I guess moving on to the fight against the second Espada. What did you think about that fight? About, with his power to age everything? Everything? Because the criticism that I remember people, thinking was dumb was like, oh, he can age, like, because how they beat him is they turn his powers onto himself, and because so that people think it's dumb that age can age, I suppose, even though, like, that was the point. The whole point was that he was just as afraid of death and aging as everyone else. So that they turned that back on. Like, it makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, I get it. You know, he was this bored of life, but he was still afraid of death. So it's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
and people
that makes sense. It's like the fight was fine. I guess I didn't have any real issues with it, but I also it's not. I don't know. It's not a fight I'm gonna really remember in the long term. It was like, oh man, this fight was super. Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of more the same for me. It's just fights happen and they're all right.
To compare that to the first Espada and the third Espada, like, because like the first Espada, he had his like wolves thing, and he was so strong that everyone else around him died, I guess. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like maybe I missed something, but I'm just like, I'm not into it, because like that's three long fights right there that I'm kind of done with. Honestly, though, I guess we do get the Vizards. The Vizards finally show up, and I gotta say, like, yeah, they don't do a lot, but like as a group, their designs might be my favorite. Like collectively, like I just like look at, like, especially when they fucking hollow fight and they all get their masks, and like you get fucking the Common Rider one with the bug mask, and she's even doing the fucking rider kicks. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just love their designs. So. Even if they don't do anything, I don't care, because they're cool. But yeah, I don't have anything more to say because they don't do much. Oh, well, I guess Shinji teleports behind Aizen, and they have a bit of an interaction.
Well, I mean, like, I guess thinking about the fight with the wolf guy, I did, earlier we were talking about this idea of, like, fear and, violence and stuff, and you had that, you had kind of something similar out of, his name, he's the captain with the samurai-looking guy. With the hat and the robe, or not the robe.
The straw hat? I don't know his name.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but he had that sort of, like, he would appear from the shadows and just kind of stab people, and so he was like...
Oh, wait, that's Captain 13, right?
I don't know the number.
Or no.
Because there's the white-haired guy, and then there's the black-haired guy, and the black-haired guy was the guy appearing out of the shadows, and...
Oh, maybe it was him, okay. I thought he was the one with the second sword, but okay, maybe you're right, I don't remember.
But yeah, there was...
I'll notice when I'm skimming through.
He was cool. The idea of, again, fighting, these fights shouldn't be... Because the guy he was fighting was like, oh, that's not like, that's not your personality. You try to avoid conflict, so what is it with you then doing all this stuff?
I remember. And now I'm thinking of the guy with 13 had the color power, I think, right?
The shadow guy had the color power.
Oh.
The 13th captain had the, I don't know. I don't remember what he did. And all I remember is he was, fighting with the little kid character before they fused, and it was goofy antics, and it was all right. And then he ended up getting stabbed, but There was a Bankai, or was it a Bankai? What's it called? Zanpakuto popularity poll, I think. And I was like, I didn't even bother reading it because I was like, what?
Well, it was right in the middle of the fucking Ulquiorra fight, and shit was so real that I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the rest of the fight, so I just skipped the popularity poll. Like, I guess we should go back to it.
Well, was there? There wasn't an actual popularity poll. It was a Zanpakuto popularity poll.
Was it? I just saw popularity poll and I just skipped it because I was like, well, I want to see the rest of the fight.
No, if it was an actual popularity poll, I would have cared. But it was just Zanpakuto, and I didn't really. I don't know. I don't care about really the Zanpakuto. Like, there aren't many abilities in Bleach that stand out to me as like, oh man, that's really cool. It's not like Naruto where, of course now I don't have an example off the top of my head. Or, I don't know, something like Chidori, where I'm like, yeah, Chidori's cool. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, there aren't many Zanpakuto that really stand out to me as like, oh man, that was awesome. But anyways, the shadow guy... Captain, I don't know, he had his fight.
Yeah, you're right, he does have the color powers too. Well, because it's like he had the second sword that he said was finicky, and he appears from shadows, and he does the color thing, so I was like, how many fucking powers do you have, dude? So I was like, trying to remember, because I keep mixing him up with the 13th Captain, I'm just like, all these powers can't be on the same character, right? But they are, so I'm like, okay, I'm just an idiot, gotcha.
I was all excited for their fight against this guy, because it's like, oh, there's going to be a 2-on-1 dynamic here. That's going to be interesting. And then it just wasn't. It was just one guy, and the 13th Captain just kind of watched after blocking maybe one attack. And I was like, oh, that's it? Really? Because these two guys, they've been a pair. Like, they're the two under Yamamoto. So they had their dynamic. So I thought, yeah, of course these two would fight alongside each other. Nope.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was at least interested in the wolf guy's fight against the person whose name I can't remember.
There were some ability things going on that I thought were cool, and he got a flashback. I'm just thinking about it, I'm just like, I don't remember it, so, oh well.
That was me with Hitsugaya's fight with the third person.
Oh yeah, that was just like, I got ice, and she's got water, and weather manipulation, and Aizen wins. Aizen wins. Okay. Oh yeah, and I guess Yami. I mean, Yami's just I feel like Yami's just kind of there to sort of like. Again, he's just there to keep other characters occupied. Like he's doing what the previous guy did, because he's fighting Renji and them for a bit, and Ichigo fights him for a second, and then Kenpachi and Byakuya come in, and they don't really get a fight. Like they end up beating Yami off screen, which I didn't mind, I guess, because like, do we really need more fights? Okay, and I fucking adore the scene where like Byakuya and Kenpachi are about to start fighting each other, and Yami gets mad, and they just tell him to fuck off.
Yep.
And they punch him, and that was Well, because there's a scene like very similar to that in One Piece, and I love it there too. I just love like the characters like not giving a fuck about the enemy and blowing them the fuck out while arguing with each other. It's such a good fun idea. I love it. And of course it's Kenpachi, so it's like, yeah, there's Kenpachi. I like Kenpachi, But yeah, it's like as a Espada, like Yami he's just kind of there. Like, and some people bitch about the 0-10 thing, but I'm like, okay, makes sense. Sure. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, it might have bothered me if because it would have, like, if the fight had been drawn out, it would have just been, here's another fight that's just happening, like, oh, but
Yeah, but instead it just kind of gets resolved off screen, so it's like, okay, sure. I mean, he didn't quite die, I don't think. Like, he was still lying there at the end. So, though I did like before, like, as the captains help Ichigo escape, they're, sort of Kurasuchi and Byakuya are like, that doesn't sound like you. Like, they both have their hopes in, well, because as the the lady, the healer lady, she kind of realizes, like, Unohana, yeah. Ichigo's their only, like, hope for beating Aizen, so, I don't know, there was a little, I don't know, because someone mentioned that Kurasuchi gets more characterization or development later, which I'm curious about, because, like, he's fucking scary, but he's, most of it, like, comically evil science man, especially during the fucking Ishida fight, where he's like, oh, I just carry around this picture of this random dude I tortured to death, like, oh, man, it's good stuff. But yeah, Byakuya and Kenpachi wreck Yami. Ichigo and Unohana go to Hyoko got fucking cut in half. That was a bit brutal.
Wait, which one is that? Who got cut in half?
the girl, the Vizard girl,
Hiyori?
the little one. Yeah, she got cut in half.
Oh yeah, that happened, and she was.
Yes, and then we get a fight that was probably one of my favorite ones of the non-major fights, because I think but it's Tosen and Komamura.
Yes.
Or Kuromara.
Yeah, things were finally happening. It looked like we were going to get some character development payoff things.
Well, because we were talking earlier about how Tosen was sort of like put in place by Kenpachi and got saved, but now we found out that Tosen can holofy. So he's not if Komamura wasn't able to save him, and Tosen was like, live or die, then he could have holified and not died.
That makes sense.
That answers that question.
Yeah, that's the thing with.
So he was holding back, and he had the perfect reason to hold back, because of course he's not gonna fucking holofy in Soul Society. That would be fucking no. You were gonna say something?
Well, no, that makes sense. I don't think there have been many instances where like the powers in Bleach have ever like put me off. Like, I've been skeptical at points, but I mean, so far nothing's really happened. Like, the fact that he powers up because he can holofy, I mean, that makes sense, and it makes sense why he wouldn't have done it before. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't have an issue with it.
Well, anyway, no, it's fine. But anyway, to talk about, because the fear things come up again, and we find out that Tosen, his real motive, he actually hated Soul Reapers, or he wanted to enact vengeance, like his idea of, justice is vengeance, and he feared not being able to enact that justice. And, well, it's like, and seeing fucking Komamura, I keep fucking mispronouncing his name. Well, because, like, see, like, after the fight, when Komamura was, he wanted to help Tosen, like, overcome his grief, and, like, I was feeling an emotion, I was starting to feel an emotion, and then fucking Aizen just fucking takes out Tosen, and I'm like, no! I was starting to feel something, fuck you, Aizen.
Yeah, this isn't the only time something like this happens, where it looks like we're gonna get to learn more about a character, and then the scene just ends abruptly.
Well, I feel like it was kind of capped off with the flashback and the loss. It's like, he said that, he was, he wanted to, his vengeance was his, main thing. So, but he was kind of, I guess, blinded by that vengeance, I suppose. Well, but then he could see, so, like, I feel like there's some, like, the little thing there with his sight, because he becomes able to see, and ironically it blinds him, because, he's not used to being able, like, having sight, so he gets caught off guard and loses. So
I don't know. I don't feel like I do want to go back, because I thought about maybe making a video. Well, now I'm not entirely sure, but again, talking about like those parallels between Gin and Tosen, like going back into the series to see if I could maybe find some more details on that, to see if that connection is as strong as I think it was meant to be. But I don't know. I don't feel like I really get Tosen. Like, I understand the whole idea of vengeance and justice and fear, but for some reason I feel like it didn't all connect for me. Like I don't know. Like, maybe I was expecting more out of their conversation. Like, maybe it would have given me more of an answer, and it didn't. But I don't know. Maybe it's just that Bleach is a little more subtle than Naruto was with its themes.
Yeah.
That it's not gonna spell everything out for me. Or then again, with some shonen series, a series can spell it out for me, and I will still miss it, because that happened with Naruto. So I don't know.
No, I was rereading some bits for points that I'm gonna have in my Sasuke video. I was rereading some bits to help you, and I noticed like something that is very close to something I said in my Sasuke video that still hasn't come out yet, and I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. That kind of thing. But yeah,
at the very least, I think I don't know, I had a little bit, like, I was a little what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, I just clicked something together, but go on.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, I was a little unsatisfied but it could just be my own misunderstanding that I'm missing something with Tosen. But I was a bigger fan of the way Tosen's character was handled there towards the end than I was with Gin. But we'll get back to Gin.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, I liked his, sort of relation with Komamura,
Yeah, that dynamic was cool.
But one thing I just realized is like the whole thing was like he wanted vengeance against the Soul Reapers, but in working with them, his lieutenant was the one who finished him off, because he gave himself a weakness that his ally was set to exploit. Like the way is just he lost because in his desire for vengeance he had to get closer to those who ended up defeating him, basically. That, which I guess goes into the blindness and sight thing, where he thought he could see, but he was wrong. So
okay,
yeah, like I just realized. So I guess that's kind of what I'm starting to take from it. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's like there's so many like different like ideas here. Like at the end of Naruto, I was talking about how like I like the way how Madra's thing is he can't let people come behind him, and they work that idea into the path that the Hokage walks in front of everyone. Madara couldn't let anyone behind him, that's why he couldn't be Hokage. So they kind of mix the two ideas. But then this Tosen fight has like 2 or 3 ideas alone going on in just this one fight, and I'm just trying to keep it all straight. And then there's all these other fights, and I'm like, wait, maybe I missed shit from all those fights. Like, that's the thing I'm wondering is, like, what if every series ever is secretly a masterpiece? And just no one noticed. Like, what if Fairy Tail's a masterpiece, just no one noticed it?
Whoa, now.
I don't know.
That's a huge paradigm shift right there. That would be,
See, well, because, like, part of me is like, no, there's no way. But at the same time, I'm like, but maybe, no. No. I mean, I do at least feel like there might be some things, like, it might be not quite as bad in some way. Like, but at the same time, it's like, there's so much that gets contradicted, it just doesn't, it's worthless. But I don't know, I want to read it because I want to see you suffer through it. Like, if you're not into Bleach, oh boy, let's get into Fairy Tail.
But yeah, I think this fight between Tosen and Komamura was probably maybe my favorite fight in this stretch of chapters, because there was clearly a lot going on here beyond just two characters throwing swords at each other.
Yeah, that's fair. Though I did like the Ulquiorra one too. And well, with the Aizen one, I'm not sure if I like the fight as much as I like the conflict, basically. But I guess we'll get to that later.
But yeah, then there's also the thing with Tosen, how he seems to explode in a pile of blood, and it's like, is he dead? But this is Bleach, and characters don't die, so...
Yeah, that's the thing, it's like...
So, like, part of my dissatisfaction with some of these events is, like, it feels like they're done. It feels like their character is dead, that they're done, like they've fulfilled their purpose. But then again, it's Bleach, so like if I throw up a complaint now, perhaps the character's not actually dead, even though they're telling me they are.
Well, like, because Tosen, like, his hand came off, and there's a few like chunks of what could be gore or blood, but he might not be totally dead. Like, he could be fine. I'm just looking at the big fucking spurt of blood, and it's like, he could be fine.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, like, some characters, like the second Espada, like most of the, like, I don't see most of the Espada coming back, or any of, well,
except for the ones that don't seem to be, you know, the ones that clearly have died are probably dead. They're not Soul Reapers, so they're not immune.
But we'll see. But anyway, so yeah, I guess we're done with the Tosen fight, and Ichigo comes in. He's back, baby, and he's ready to fight Aizen.
What I did think was kind of interesting was when they were running back through the gate, he and Unohana, and there was the whole thing with the bridge, where, like, because his powers were unstable, it was like a really, like, she was starting to almost fall off the bridge, and she's like, let me run in front of you. He's like, no, I'm fine. No, let me run in front of you. But that kind of, it wasn't just a gag, like, it did play into, Ichigo.
It was amusing, but it wasn't like explicit. It was just characters like doing things that made sense. It wasn't like a setup for a joke.
Well, even then, like in that gag, it was a setup for the fact that Ichigo's powers, like he was only at half his strength.
Are fucking insane. Yeah, right. Like she's just like, wait, what? How? Are you fucking serious? Like, yeah, because it's fucking Ichigo. He's he's nuts.
I also like the detail that Kubo set up with Aizen. That, everybody in the Soul Society, or, everyone in the 13 court guard companies, and as well the Aizen's closest advisors, the Arrancars, as well as most relevant people in the human world, they've all seen Aizen's Shikai. So, Ichigo, there's no room for debate. You were the only one who can defeat Aizen. Because you're the only one who hasn't seen his Shikai.
Yeah.
Which actually, I forget if that detail had been set up before this point, so maybe I just spoiled it. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But I guess getting to the Aizen stuff is because it was kind of interesting because like earlier with like Kenpachi, especially the idea of resolve, what is sort of like, resolve behind your sword is kind of where your strength comes from. But Aizen points out like, hey, Ichigo, you don't have a reason to hate me. And I just think about it like, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. Like, what has Aizen done to Ichigo? Orihime is safe now. Ruki is safe. Everyone's safe. Like, I mean, he's done some shit, but it's all kind of resolved now. Like, and Aizen, like, it's not until Aizen starts, like, well, because, like, and then, of course, Aizen fucks himself in a way, because, Ichigo, everyone recognizes that Ichigo's, gonna be the one to save the day, because he's the only one who hasn't seen Aizen's, sword, and, because it's like they all decide to fight to protect him, which is interesting because of what happened during Ulquiorra fight. Ichigo, protecting has been like Ichigo's thing. Like there's so many there's so many fucking ideas this arc. Like it's like, remember back when we were talking about Search for Tsunade and we were like, well, there's the gambling thing and like the ninja vices, and then Naruto wants to be Hokage, and then like there was just so many different things that didn't quite mesh well together. This is like that, but times 1,000. And it's not, I don't necessarily think it's bad, because like most of the ideas are linked to, like, this is Ichigo, protection, so it's like, and one idea linked to this one character. The thing is that there's so many fucking characters that you like, it's Tosen, now we're on just about justice and vengeance and blindness. It's kind of hard to
figure out what works and what doesn't, because there's so much happening, and it's trying to,
exactly,
with how long this arc has been, to try to connect all the dots over the course of like 300 chapters, it's more difficult, as opposed to say like a 30 chapter arc where you can easily go through it, comb through everything and be like, okay, this clearly connects to this and that and everything else. With a 300 chapter arc, something could happen in like chapter 2 that is connected to something in chapter 222. But it's like, to connect all that amidst everything else that's happening, it could be easy to miss.
And what you just made me realize is I think we're reading Bleach like not the worst way possible. The worst way possible would be like weekly. But I don't think this is the ideal way to read Bleach. Like for Naruto, it worked out because we'd already had familiarity with the series, And with One Piece, I know everything. No, I don't know everything, but I'll know a bunch of things. So it's like I'm going to be able to keep the discussion going. With Bleach, we don't know a lot. And what I just realized is that, like, I've been talking about how it's like, it would be a fast read. Like, you could read Bleach pretty comfortably in a week, I don't think that would be very difficult at all. For the earlier volumes, when there's they're a bit denser as far as like happenings per chapter, they'd be a bit slower. But the later stuff, like I could have easily read these 100 chapters in like 3 or 4 hours. 4 hours? That's a bit long. I think the thing with Bleach, I wonder if Kubo, if he wanted people to not just read it, but reread it. Like, that's because if it's a fast read, then it's not hard to reread. And if you reread, you're going to pick up more stuff.
So wait a minute, are you saying that the Nen Show needs to turn back the pendulum arc with Bleach?
No! That would be good, actually. Oh, that's funny.
Or not necessarily just with Bleach, because, like, there are going to be other series we read that we haven't read before, so perhaps...
I mean, maybe it's the case for them. For Bleach specifically, like, just the fact that it's easy to reread, or that it's fast to read and possibly reread, and the fact that there's, like, so many fucking ideas and characters, I just think it might benefit a lot more from a reread than, that we can give it credit for on our initial reading here. So... Because, that's the thing, is, like, with Naruto, I feel like I would notice more on a reread, not because I missed things, but necessarily because I didn't appreciate what it was doing at the time. Like, with Zabuza and Haku, I didn't really get how far the motif of, ninjas, shinobi as tools, and shinobi as people went throughout the series. So I was like, yep, there sure is this idea here. But now, in retrospect, I, appreciate that more. And with Kakashi and Obito, and how the whole thing with, camaraderie sort of folds into their conflict during the fucking war. And it's like, it's all, like, I didn't give that enough credit at the time because I didn't understand how significant it was. And for Bleach, it's like, I don't know jack shit, so how can I really give anything the credit except what I, particularly find interesting or enjoy? But I'm not going to find everything, that becomes relevant interesting until it becomes relevant. And then by then it's like, it's been 2 weeks. With Chad, we just read that, but I already forgot it because it's just been 2 weeks, and it's just like one little thing that happened in a stretch of like 80 chapters I read 2 weeks ago. Like, if I just read, like, in retrospect, I wonder if the best way to read Bleach would have been to, like, read it on our own, like, before we even did Naruto, then a few months later come back and do Bleach for the Nen Show. Like, that might have been the best way to do it, because then we would have been already familiar with it, and then we could dig into it a little bit more. But, I mean, not that the Nen Show is canceled. We're going to finish Bleach, and then we're going to talk about Bleach. No, that would be silly. I just think, like, just the way it's structured makes me feel like it's supposed to be read and reread, sort of. Like, do you sort of feel the same way, in a way? Or
I don't know. I feel like you could...
Even a little bit?
I feel like you could kind of... I don't really know how to argue for or against that, because I feel like with any narrative, rereading it would be beneficial. So... I mean...
That's true.
Like, if, you know, with Bleach, yeah, there'd be stuff that you'd miss because of how much is happening. But that'd be the case with any narrative, so I don't know. See, like, for me, in a sense, I would like to reread at least certain parts of Bleach, because I know that there are things that are... there's things that I want to go back and look for, like the stuff with Tosen, to really, you know, hone in on that. But at the same time, I don't want to reread Bleach because of how exhausting it is to read through fight after fight after fight.
No, because yeah, and a lot of it parts aren't as interesting and don't matter. Like, I thought about the Chad and Ishida fights at the beginning of Hueco and I'm like, I don't want to reread those. So yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's just like, even if it didn't work, I do think it's an interesting way to sort of structure a series. Like, because I'm just trying to think, like, he put one chapter out a fucking week, and I'm just like, what is this guy's brain? Like, because he's dealing with, like I said, a lot of ideas here. Maybe too many, but the fact that they're all in his head, and he's like, that's the thing, is it makes sense in Kubo's head. If nowhere else, it makes sense in his head, and that's interesting in itself. See, I'm not sure if I'm giving him credit or railing on him at this point. Let's just move on. So yeah, everyone... Or did you have any other thoughts? I forget what we were talking about, because I just pointed out the thing about, you know, everyone wants to protect Ichigo.
Yeah, that was cool. So maybe there's a little bit more going on with...
There's definitely more, because I'll get into it later. Well, because, like, to point out some earlier things, Orihime was protecting Ichigo during their battle. Like, he's the one there to save her, yet there she is trying to help him. And what happened when, at the start of Hueco Ruki and Renji came in and they're like, we want to save Orihime too. Like, Ichigo's very self-centered. And big surprise, that comes into the Aizen fight later, because we find out that the only reason he wants to protect people is because he wants to protect himself. Because if he loses people, he feels the grief, he feels the pain. Like, that's, he's not, like, selfless, he's, you know, selfish, which is, like, so there's something there, as we find out later. And we'll talk about the Aizen fight later, but it's like, yeah, it makes sense thinking back to it, because I only realized there's two connections with Orihime and Rukia from this arc just now. So, I think at some point because everyone fights Aizen for a bit, and I think at one point Shinji teleports behind Aizen, or maybe he teleports behind him, Shinji. Yeah, no, both.
Well, then you've got the whole thing with Shinji's Bankai, how it you know, reverses things. So are they teleporting behind, or are they teleporting in front, or above?
Yeah, so which is a cool power. I kind of like it. Of course, it doesn't work because the Aizen's even like, because like that's what I was saying earlier about how Shinji was like, I'm ahead of you, and so he's like, because he tried to trick Aizen where it's like, oh, it also swaps front and behind, but Aizen was like, no, because he's like, oh, you just swap directions, well, I swap all senses, so you're below me. Like, Shinji's kind of cocky, I suppose.
See, I think that was I know I was just talking about, like, I didn't care about the Bankai popularity poll before, but this was the first one that actually, like, got me to think, that's pretty cool, because, like, inverting everything and, you know, having to process that all in your head, like, that would have made for a cool fight. It's just he was fighting Aizen.
Right. Well, and I like how it came in at the end when Hitsugaya charged in, and it's like, oh, everything's backwards.
Yeah, that was cool.
But then it wasn't Aizen. Ichigo, because Ichigo's not affected by the illusion, so he actually starts paying attention. He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And oops, it's Hinamori. Like, that actually surprised me. I was like, oh fuck, because it's like fucking, it's Aizen. We know his powers. Like, it's just, it was a good fake out, honestly. Like, see, this is honestly, like, comparing this, like, a lot of Kishimoto's fake outs is, like, this is a good one because it's Aizen, and it's delivered as, like, it's not a fake out. The problem with Kishimoto's fake outs is that the fake out itself is supposed to be the shocking moment. To compare,
so like
this,
Sasuke versus Deidara, where Deidara self-destructs, and Sasuke's like, oh, Sasuke's dead, right? No, he actually survived. He's summoned and reverse summoned.
Or like Kakashi and Obito piercing each other. You know, they're like, oh no, they're both dead. But then it's like, really. Oh no, they're both
it's
fine,
just Genjutsu.
Obviously. Right. So there's the shocking reveal and then a lackluster payoff. But with this, there's a shocking reveal. Hitsugaya, the trick worked and Aizen got impaled. Then there's an even more shocking reveal afterwards. No, it wasn't Aizen, it was Hinamori. Oh no. What? Like, and not just Hitsugaya stabbed Hinamori. Like, they're like best friends.
Yeah, that was good.
And he just fucking stabbed, like, so it's like, oh shit, Aizen got beaten, and it's like, oh shit, Hinamori got, like, it's even more of a gut punch. Like, this is how you do a fake out, because the reveal is of the fake out is more shocking than the original apparent fake out. Like, yeah, so Kishi, take notes. Just throwing that out there. And of course the panel you showed me where there was like, how long have you been under the illusion that I wasn't using Kyoka Suigetsu? Like, fucking Aizen.
It's such a meme panel. The shading, everything is so black. It's just so serious.
I mean, I do like Kubo's art, and I see where you're coming from, because it's like, well, because I mean, for me, that's what I was thinking the whole time, is like, what, couldn't anything be an illusion? And everything was an illusion, because it's fucking Aizen. Oh god, and Hitsugaya is just fucking wrecked. And then Aizen just fucking destroys everyone. He's just like, I'm bored.
See, that was an interesting fight, because I don't know if there are going to be any other non-1-on-1 fights in the series, honestly. And that was like 3 or 4 or 5 on 1, and it was cool because a lot of things were playing off each other. I wish Kubo did more of that.
Yeah. All the abilities working. Like, see, the abilities on their own, it's like, okay, Hitsugaya's got ice powers, and he does ice things. But when in combination with, like, Shinji's stuff, there's like, oh, there's a thing there, you know? And the other thing about the fight is, like, because I was just saying earlier about how Aizen fucked himself. Because Ichigo, he wants to protect people, and now he's being protected, and he doesn't have a reason to hate Aizen. Now he has a reason to hate Aizen. Because the people who were there to protect him got wrecked. So maybe shouldn't have done that, Aizen. But then we get Yamamoto, who's fucking... I kind of like how this turned out, because it's like...
At first I was like, why did he wait until Aizen... now to do anything? Like, why not help everybody else? But then he kind of had the little explanation.
Well, his power is so, it seems like it's the type of power that would endanger everyone who he was fighting. Like, he's too strong to not fight alone.
Well, basically. That and, like, everything, like, they were sort of stalling for time. Like, their fight against Aizen was to kind of give him time to set up whatever his thing was. I forget what it was, but...
Yeah, well, he had some pretty big attacks, but, like, later on he sacrifices his arm.
See, that threw me off at first, because I thought he was sacrificing his whole body, so when he came back later and was alive, I was like, wait a minute, I thought that was a self-destruct.
No, it was just the arm. But I did like how it's like, he's like, I have flame powers, and Aizen's like, well, guess what? I have a guy who negates flame powers, and Yamamoto's like, okay, I'll just kick his ass with my bare hands.
Yep.
And he takes off his shirt, and it's just like, yes, yeah. I like the old people just being fucking boss. Well, because the way he just so easily wins, it kind of reminds me of Kenpachi, but with Kenpachi, it comes because he's a dumbass who, like, handicaps himself because he's so bored of everything. But with Yamamoto, it's like, he's the cool old guy. He's your, again, like your Netero, your Whitebeard. You're just fucking, just gonna fucking kick ass.
And then, of course, you've got the thing with I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce this name, because to me, I read it as like German, but this is the Spanish. Okay. So I don't know if it's Wonder Weiss or Wonder Weiss or
That's good. I didn't think about it. I just read it. I don't. It's words. I read words and they make sense in my brain.
But anyways,
but I don't think about how to pronounce.
But anyways, that one has the similar dynamic to the the emotionless monster who showed up earlier, the Chimera. That
the Chimera
sacrificed intelligence, basically everything that constitutes a human being to just absorb his fire powers, and so he had to fight this. He had to fight yet another emotionless creature.
Yeah, because that's a common thread between Yamamoto's fights so far, but not sure if there's anything to take from that yet. Oh yeah, okay, so then I guess did we have anything else to say? Because Yamamoto, he sacrifices himself, or Aizen had a trap ready and Yamamoto had to take the brunt of it to so basically Yamamoto kind of got defeated by Aizen's planning, basically, which I mean it's fair, he has to get written out of the story somehow so Ichigo can do things, but yeah, I didn't mind it. Did we have anything else to say?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Okay, because then we find out that I was right all along, and that everything was as Aizen planned. Because I remember I was saying that with Rukia and the hollow attack, and I was like, what if this was all as someone planned? Because it's just the thing that happens, and then it turned out to be true. I was right. But my broad, vague assumption was correct in a much more specific way than I predicted, because it was Aizen. I mean, some of the things he said make sense. Like, I would almost wonder if it was like Kubo getting rid of plot holes, or present the thing with the Menos Grande attacking when Ishida used the Quincy bait. Like, he points out like, that's not supposed to do that, but it did. Or then Rukia getting arrested by Soul Society. Like he just everything's just as planned without full he's a wizard basically. He's a smart person wizard. He just does things. But I mean it's kind of explained away with the Hogyoku, where it fulfills desires. So it just sure. I don't know. How did you feel about that?
I mean it was fine. Maybe there's, if I looked into it a little more, maybe something doesn't quite add up, but I don't know. I didn't notice anything.
Well, I mean, up to this point, I've been kind of saying how, Aizen's, his plan with Hueco Mundo, it was a trap to get, some of the Soul Reapers out of the picture, because, now he didn't have to deal with Kenpachi or Byakuya in fake Karakura town. Works out, because I don't know, because I can see Kenpachi being one of the stronger Soul Reaper captains. At full, trying to imagine full potential Kenpachi. I don't think anyone will be able to stand up to him. With Shikai and Bankai and a sword that actually works. That's not blunt and dull because he doesn't take care of it. Or without the eye patch, it's I could see that Kenpachi being really strong. We're probably never gonna see it, but I could see it being really, really strong. But it's I don't know. Did I have a point to that? I don't remember. Why did I bring up Kenpachi? What was I talking about?
Aizen's how everything works.
Oh, just as it's because he set up the fights somehow, and I don't know. I forget what I was trying to say.
I mean, this doesn't feel as to compare it to everything was planned from the beginning. It's saying. Not Black Zetsu saying I the history of Shinobi, I created it for Kaguya. Or even then, Madara had some little details with regards to Obito's, what happened to Obito that was a little.
Yeah, well, that's I get what you mean. This isn't as egregious to me, but maybe it's such a wild assertion, and it's it's almost unbelievable. So the only way it can make sense is with he's got a magic rock that. Does what he wants. So it's
I'm not a super big fan of the Hogyoku. It's just it's I don't know if I'd call it a MacGuffin, but it's just it's a thing that does everything that you need it to, and that's what it is. Or I don't know.
I mean, we'll talk about it later.
If you want to talk about plot devices, it does what it needs to do. I don't know if there's anything inherently wrong in that. Other than maybe it could potentially be...
Got something to say bad about plot devices?
Well, no, I was kind of bringing that up specifically because I knew you made your video on it. So, it is one of those things that, it just does things, and it could potentially be unsatisfying, but...
I mean, there's things to take from it, like, but well, basically the way it ends with with it rejecting Aizen, like there's we'll talk about that later, because it folds into the, like, again, the conflict. I thought was cool how it sort of resolved, but we'll get to that, because for now Ishin comes in, and we're finally Ichigo finally realizes that finds out that his dad's a Soul Reaper, and we get some fights.
that was why Ichigo was special. That's why he was, targeted from the beginning, because he was half human, half Soul Reaper. I assume that's what the reveal was going to be. They cut it off, so
because they cut it off with his dad, the Soul Reaper, showing up. So I can't think of anything else that it was going to be. I kind of already mentioned what I thought I had to say, like Ichigo versus Gin, because he usually, like, they were both creeped out by each other, because Gin kept mentioning that Ichigo's weird, like, because of what Ichigo was saying about how he learns about people while he fights them, and but he couldn't place Gin, and yeah, they both think the other is weird, and they fight for a bit.
There was also the whole thing with,
I don't know, did you have
Gin's Bankai, where it's like it extends up to 8 miles, and then he just swings and takes out like half the city.
Fucking damn. Yeah. What did you think about their fight? Gin finally gets a real fight. What did you think about it?
Gin finally got to do something instead of just being the aesthetic creepy boy who just stands there and smirks. I like the fight with Ichigo, because it's, I might have to just rescind what I was saying about Ichigo's, the whole thing with Ulquiorra not feeling like it was fully lived up to, because you do get the fight with Gin, and then you've got the stuff going on with Aizen, and Ichigo just kind of gives up, and Gin's like, you're not interesting anymore. You don't have the same, I don't know, you don't have the same look that you did before, the same look that made me interested in fighting you. So you're dumb. You're boring.
Yeah, because it kind of doesn't end, because Gin and Ichigo, it just kind of separates, and so that we can move on to the final stretch. So,
although I did think it was kind of cool how, like, at least I think this is what happened. See, now we're getting to the point where, one thing I forgot to mention, because I'm about to criticize Kubo's art, so I'll praise it first. He was doing something really cool this stretch of chapters that he hadn't done before, where he was transitioning between battles through, like, the reflections in characters' swords. That was cool. Mm-hmm. So I like that.
Okay, I didn't.
He did that twice. There was one, like, there'd be an explosion in the background from some fight, and then it would cut to Aizen, through the reflection in Aizen's sword, and he's talking with someone, and something else like that happened. But here, I think what was happening, some of the details in what Kubo was drawing were just kind of like blurs, or it could also just be maybe that I'm not paying full attention. Although at this point I was pretty invested, so I don't know. I don't think that's the case. But, like, I think what happened was, like, Gin with his massive sword just, like, ended up knocking Ichigo over to Ishin and Aizen. So, like, it just kind of seamlessly, maybe not seamlessly, but it just kind of transitions from that fight to, back into the conversation. So all 4 characters are in that same spot now without having to, like, let's run over here to see what's happening. It's just kind of, they just get there because Gin's got a massive sword. Take that quote out of context.
Shut up, Mathwiz. No, it's fine. So yeah, they're fighting for a bit, and Urahara comes in. Like, see, okay, the thing is, like, Kishimoto loves his fake outs. Kubo loves his dramatic arrivals. Like,
there were so many.
And there
were so many in this. Like, even just with Aizen, you've got, like, everybody goes down, and then Yamamoto shows up, and then...
Well, the Vizards show up, and then last stretch of chapters, or was it the stretch of chapters... No, it was the stretch of chapters before, where
Kenpachi and Byakuya showed up, and...
Ichigo's fighting Grimjo, and then Rukia and Urahara come in at, like, just the right times, and maybe Renjitsu or something. Like, it's just, like, Kubo just fucking loves it. Like, I don't mind it. Personally, like, yeah, it's convenient... But it is cool, like, because what other time is Urahara gonna arrive?
Especially because,
he needs to be here.
The Souls, like, the Vizards showed up in there, and there's a little bit of a conflict of, like, are they going to cooperate with the Soul Society? Is the Soul Society going to cooperate with them? But Urahara was, like, expelled, like, he was actively, characterized by the Soul Society, so I think it would make sense that he wouldn't show up right away.
He didn't even show up when the Soul... the characters fighting were Ishin, Ichigo... and Ichigo, like, not Soul Reapers. So, yeah, you didn't until you pointed that out, I didn't realize it, because he didn't show up when the Soul Reapers were fighting and he was expelled by them previously. So yeah, that's it's at least deliberate, I do think. So I'm not sure if there's much more to take from it than that, but it's definitely like Urahara's avoiding the Soul Reapers. So because and then Yoriichi comes in too, but anyway, there's more fighting, but I don't remember. They're just fighting.
I don't know if this was a detail that had been set up before, but there was like the bit where Urahara sealed up Aizen's wrists because that's where spirit energy vents, are.
Yeah, they've mentioned sort of where spirit, because there's the organs that when Ishida defeated that random Soul Reaper and Byakuya did it to Ichigo. So maybe there were wrist wounds during those scenes, so it's not completely out of nowhere. I don't know, because Kubo does a lot of explaining things in the middle of the when during the fight with the second Espada, when the Vizard guy, he sealed him in these Kido constructions, and then he's like, "Oh, did you think Kido couldn't age?" But it's well, how do you establish that beforehand? Yeah. You have this character. The only issue with it is should the characters really be sitting there explaining their powers? See, this is where a Hunter x Hunter style narrator would come in handy, because it doesn't make sense, or internal narration or something but that would take different amounts of time, so I'm not sure. And I don't think Kubo really likes he does a lot of storytelling, well, but that is dialogue, so it's I'm not sure, things need to be clear to a point. So it's which is the value of a narrator, because it's an objective, undeniable standpoint, whereas characters can get things wrong, which so the question is are they being used, is the characters with the whole Gyokyu is the whole thing was it manipulates hollow abilities and stuff, but no, it doesn't. That was just Urahara's misunderstanding. So it makes sense that with stuff like that you can't be certain. So it depends on where are we getting the information, and what information what is the information important for. So it's a tricky thing. I wouldn't mind if more, again, like I said with Naruto, I wouldn't mind it, maybe Hunter x Hunter is overdoing it, but I do think a narrator isn't something there's no fucking narrator for Bleach. There's zero narration. One Piece has very, very little. Did Naruto have any narration?
On occasion, I think, but not much.
Maybe the beginning and the end, the talking about the story of the nine-tailed fox and the boy who it was sealed in, but I don't remember it in general. So yeah, I wouldn't mind it showing up more often if the story needs it, because it would at least do away with some of the characters explaining their powers to each other. But it's because we do need to know the information. It's just in how that information is being delivered that I wonder, does it have to be dialogue? Does it have to be the characters again, if it makes sense, a prideful character, but then you get every character who's that's what fucking Mashima does with Fairy Tail. Every fucking villain is the same. They're all prideful and cocky and sadistic, so they love bragging about their abilities, and it's fucking stupid. It gets tiring. It just gets tiring. So anyway, it's I'm just skimming through and everyone's fighting Aizen. Yeah, they just fight him for a bit, and he finishes his transformation and he leaves. There's nothing else to say. There's no real resolution.
I did like this fight, because I did kind of the banter back and forth between the characters. And this was one of those fights that it ended off screen, which was fine, because at this point Aizen's beaten so many people. You don't need to show everything. Again, that goes with the whole pacing thing. We've already had so many fights, we don't need to focus super heavily on this one. And I feel like there was something else I was going to say about it, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't know what you were going to say about it either, so let's move. I'm ready to move on. So, because Aizen, he finishes his transformation.
Oh, well, I know. Actually, I remembered it now. Sorry. There was also the little detail about how the Soul Reapers couldn't sense Aizen because he had transcended or whatever, but Ichigo still could, and that's important.
Yeah, because he's stronger, and then and then you kind of get a similar thing later where Ichigo's finished his training and Aizen can't sense him either, and then he figures out why. So a little different. So in a way, Ichigo ascended beyond him too. Yeah. So, because that's the thing is because Aizen's whole thing is with godhood. He keeps mentioning that. And so I guess that's a third side to the dynamic a bit. Well, because even the Espada were like Aizen's king. You know, they saw him as like they said king, but they did kind of see him as like a godlike, all-powerful figure because he kind of was. So that now there's like a godliness thrown in with the human animal thing, and I'm like, well, okay, you know, it's there. Like I'm not sure what's being said through that, but it's there. I mean, maybe kind of the point. Well, because like what happens is Aizen gets brought down, so maybe the point was like there is like he keeps thinking about gods, but there is no god in these characters. You know, that was some unfortunate wording. There is no god. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Sorry, any theists in the audience. No. So anyway, Ichigo and Isshin go into the thing, and well, I kind of like how like there was the creature that they were running from last time, and Aizen just destroys it. So they're like, hey, we can train here. Like, you know, I mean, sure, it's like a hyperbolic time chamber thing. Well, it's a hyperbolic time chamber that like the limit is like only waived in this one instance. Like it makes sense why no one came here before, because like Aizen's only able to do this now because he's a cheaty boy. He cheated and got his insane power. Like this is an obvious exception. So yeah, it more or less it emerged organically, and there was already the time fuckery built up before with the Urahara and the entering the Soul Society. So it's like it's not egregious. I'm fine with it. Did you have any thoughts on that, or
it was fine? I mean, yeah, Ichigo had to get stronger. Yeah.
Yep. But so anyway, I guess. But what sort? While he's doing that, Tatsuki came back.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I mean, she looks different. It's because, like, Kubo's art has changed. And, like, with the other characters, we've just, you know, we see them as it gradually changes. But with Tatsuki, we haven't seen her in fucking 100 chapters. Or no, more than that. Like, more, like, how long? We saw her at the end of the Arrancar stuff.
Yeah, right when Ichigo started to, you know, teleport. Or when they went to the Hueco Mundo.
Right before they went to...
And they were there.
Exactly.
Urahara brought them.
That was like over 150 chapters ago, like 100 a while ago. And so, of course, Tatsuki looks a little different. So even though, like, for her, it's been like a couple days, maybe? Like, you know, not that long. I don't know. Well, it was interesting because, well, Chizuru, she's never knew about all the solar burst stuff. She's like, guys, what the fuck is happening? Why aren't you guys freaking out about this? Like, poor Chizuru. And then
I like the part where
well, it was like
Mizuiru had like the tasers. He's like, we'll use this, and they're like, that doesn't work on him, and he just kind of throws it. It's like, well, so it's interesting seeing these humans try to rationalize all this like spirit energy and stuff, and then there's just Aizen.
Well, because it's like right, they're up against like the strongest known character up to this point at like full power. Like they're just normal humans, and they're just trying. And fucking Don Kanonji comes in. Like he didn't do anything aside from like assert his hero-ness. Like he's like, oh, you know, he's going up against this fucking completely unknown entity. I was just fucking stunned that it happened in the first place. So I kind of liked it for that, just because it's like, what the fuck? I didn't expect that. I mean, it was kind of just like killing time and raising tension, you know. So for now, well, because it's like I mentioned earlier about how like the people who protect now, you know, Ichigo has a reason to hate Aizen because of the people who tried to protect him. But now Aizen's going for his fucking friends, and it's like, uh-oh. Aizen, you really fucked up now. But looking at Ichigo's training, why do you think Zangetsu got younger? Like, is it because Ichigo... Like, my thought was that, you know, Ichigo's Bankai, he got more refined, maybe? Or no? Oh, I wonder. Well, because another thing is that, like, because he mentions the rain that once poured down. Basically, Ichigo... Like, the thing with Ichigo's grief is that, you know, his mom died and the rain kept going until he saved Rukia and the rain stopped. You know, he finally proved that he was able to protect people. But now he failed to protect Orihime on his own power. So his mental city has flooded. So I wonder if maybe Zangetsu he regressed in age because Ichigo regressed into his grief. Perhaps maybe that's looking into it wrong. But that's just the thought I had. Because he's younger, like, there's a reason for it. I just don't know what the reason is. Did you have any thoughts, or...?
Yeah, it's another one of those things that there's probably more to it that I just didn't see.
I'm trying to figure it out myself, so I will. But yeah, moving on. Everyone does the run around. Aizen dicks with them. Ichigo's fighting Zangetsu and evil Hollow Ichigo in his mind, doing more training. Matsumoto shows up and Gin takes her away to knock her out temporarily because they knew each other when they were young. And I guess we get to talk about that. Hold on, let me get to it in the actual... Yeah, Gin comes back, and so let's finally get to this. How did you feel about Gin betraying Aizen?
Well, first of all, this was I think I talked about it last time, that this was the big moment I got spoiled on. That I found an image in, like, a soundtrack video. So I didn't know when it was coming, because it was, like, fan art. So I didn't know when the reveal was going to happen. And so, like, all leading up to this, every time Gin would appear behind Aizen, or, like, the page would end and he would trail off as, like, saying Captain Aizen or whatever. I was like, it's gonna happen. Right here. Here it is. And then there were so many instances where Aizen would get pierced by, like, some flash of light or some blur.
someone off screen, and you're like, was it Gin with his magic extendy sword?
And then, yes, but then it was just other characters, getting these big shots in. So then when it finally happened,
like, oh my god,
the panel of it, it's just this... like, this blur with Gin's robe flying around, and then there's, like, a piercing thing through Aizen. So then I was like, did some other character appear and, like, shoot through Gin to get to Aizen? Like, at this point, it took a few panels for it to sink in, like, it actually happened. Because, like, there was just so many of these moments where it was, like, Aizen getting struck by something. So I was like, well, surely this wasn't it. Like, I don't know, it didn't have that immediate impact. Like, oh shit, it finally happened, because I was waiting for it. I was waiting to really get into it. And,
See, for me, because I wasn't... You were just... Poor you, Mathwiz, you were just sitting there the whole time, just waiting for the shoe to drop. Waiting for that figurative shoe to just drop.
There was also the potential that it didn't even happen in this arc, because I didn't know when it happened. Like, I assumed it was here,
right?
But... So how about you?
See, because I didn't have that problem. When it happened, I was like, oh shit, what the fuck is going on? Why is Gin betraying... Like, I didn't question it. I just, like, instantly, like, I knew it was happening, but I didn't know why. And I'm like, well, because I did know, like, I knew about Gin's sword, because the whole, 13 kilometers. Like, that's another meme panel that people joke about, because it's just, like, it's a really high number, Well, because it's, like, it's the quote-unquote power scaling thing, where it's, like... If it was, 8 miles or 4 miles, did it really make a difference? Well, that was also kind of the thing.
Now that you mention that, with it being translated into English, they converted it to miles, but it should have been kilometers. Yes. That's interesting.
Because it's Japan, yeah, right. Well, because I guess the difference, it's, if I said 13 kilometers, like, because I said 13 kilometers in the context of 8 miles, like, now you have a scale in your mind. But if you just had 13 kilometers, like, it's long. It's a long distance, For a sword, especially, like, it doesn't. There's no real, like, yeah, it doesn't. But because I was gonna say the whole thing was that as he hid the number from Aizen, like he was talking about like how fast it extends, like he was bragging about it to Ichigo, but he was lying, and as we found out to Aizen, it's like, because I guess Gin lied about his powers to Aizen, and Aizen, but the trick was actually that his sword is also poisonous, which. I'd known about, I'd been told that, or I think I heard about it from a spoiler, so, I didn't know why it was going to become relevant, and then here it fucking happens, I'm like, oh shit. Because, Gin, he was the one closest to Aizen, and at the opportune time, he, acts, but it doesn't work out because it's fucking Aizen, but, like, so I guess, what did you think about the actual, like, because I get, like, what happened was, Aizen, the thing with the whole Gyoku, that I find out is there's actually 2, and Aizen made one and Urahara made one, and Aizen was trying to make it stronger by feeding it stuff, and including some of Matsumoto's soul, I guess, and also humans and probably Arrancar and stuff too, and hollows. But he perfected it by feeding it Urahara's, by combining the two, basically. And I guess what happened is Matsumoto was one of the people who, she was, part of her was used for the Hogyoku, and Gin saw that.
Oh, so that's what that meant.
Knew each other.
Okay, I was a little confused.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, but Gin was basically, he was sort of always there for Matsumoto's sake with Aizen. So he was a super deep undercover agent, sort of. but I guess, like, yeah, okay. Like, maybe there were some subtle things between Gin and Matsumoto from, like, the Soul Society arc that I didn't notice, because obviously we wouldn't have known about the connection, so we wouldn't have paid attention.
Because there were interactions between them. Like, there was history there, but there wasn't a whole lot to dig super deep into it. And I would know this because I've been paying attention with Gin, because Gin's been my boy.
Of course, yeah, he's finally doing things. So of course, but so it's like, see, now I'm wondering if we go back to Soul Society, what do we have to say? Like, what is, like, now we know where it goes. Like, because I'm assuming Gin's dead. Like, he's there's a body. He's, you know, it's not like with Tosen where it's like he got exploded into a shower of gore. But this is Bleach. He could be alive. But with Gin, I have no idea either. But it seems like he's dead. So,
and then there were panels of him saying, like, well, I can entrust this to Ichigo before I die, and, you know, at least I got to say I was sorry before I died. And then after the fact, Matsumoto's like, oh yeah, he's dead, and that. And so, well, I'm gonna if you have anything to say about this, say it now, because I have a lot to say.
I don't, because I was like. Or what, you have a lot to say?
Yeah, but that's why I want you to go first, because mine's going to derail into a rant real fast.
Still on the Gin stuff?
Yeah, still on the Gin stuff.
Go for it.
Okay, so I was really disappointed in this. Not the twist, because I knew the twist was coming, and so going into it, I assumed, oh hey, we're gonna get to learn more about Gin. We're gonna get to figure out why this guy ticks. You know, what's his character? What does he do besides be, you know, creepy, sneaky boy standing on the sides looking sinister? And we didn't really get much of that. Like, yes, we know he goes in, like, he was there to help Matsumoto, but nothing really about the whole, you know, fear, you know, whatever was going on with, like, the third company, you know, his subordinates.
Izuru,
that wasn't really brought up. Like, we saw similar panels from his backstory of, like, you know, these guys meeting up with Aizen and the Hogyoku, and we got to see, you know, the stuff with Matsumoto, so obviously, you know, why, like, Gin wanted to protect Matsumoto and wanted to get that back. But I was expecting so much more. Like with Tosen, there's the whole thing with justice and, you know, vengeance and soul reapers and all this, you know, there's substance, there's nuance
so many ideas,
to...
but yeah, I guess the thing, yeah, I guess I see where you're coming from, because, like, there's so many ideas. Like, what's the idea with Gin? He just likes a girl and wanted to help her. Like, I guess he wanted to protect her, so he's kind of like Ichigo in a way, sort of. But I don't know if there's more to take from it.
I think there was supposed to be a little bit of a or I don't know if I'd call it a parallel, but obviously, like, Gin wanted to leave.
Well, because I only just realized that.
He wanted to leave it behind. Like, he wanted. Like, if he was gonna die and he saw Ichigo there, like, okay, I can entrust this to Ichigo. Like, so you could say that because he was battling Ichigo from the very beginning, that, you know, he saw something in Ichigo that Ichigo could have been the one to take down Aizen. And so with him being there as Aizen's right hand, but the one to, you know, Gin wanted to take him down, perhaps he wanted to have, like, a backup plan, some sort of insurance through Ichigo.
Well, what if Gin thought Ichigo was creepy because Ichigo reminded him of himself a little bit?
Perhaps. That's the thing, though, is that there's a lot.
To go back and reread.
Like, no, it's not even like with Tosen, where there's a lot to potentially read into that might just be missed. There are some things with Gin to look into, perhaps, but like, I don't know. I was like, so far, Gin, because most
for Gin, I feel less,
because most of like whenever Tosen's on screen, a lot of, like, he has a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of, like, discussion with him, like, obviously talking about the themes that I brought up earlier. With Gin, most of the time, he would be there just looking sinister, saying little sinister things. Like, there was one little moment I talked about in the last podcast that I thought maybe was foreshadowing. It was for this moment where Wonderweiss was sort of skeptical of Gin. Like, that was the one that he was, like, you know, didn't seem to like, and Gin was like, oh, I don't like this one. So I was like, maybe is that, like, hinting that there's suspicion that Gin's a traitor? Especially because Wonderweiss was, you know, the one created by Aizen, so it was, like, the ultimate weapon.
Right, so he was even, yeah, right.
But with Gin, like, I was, a lot of what Gin has done has just been, like, he's been a presence. He's just been there. Like, throughout the entire battle against Aizen, he was just standing on the sidelines, doing nothing. So, like, I was expecting a lot, like, a good chapter or two, like, getting more into that backstory, like, digging more into his interactions with Aizen, figuring out, like, how he was able to, why did he want to take down Aizen beyond just he wanted to do something for Matsumoto? Like, what is his reason for existing? Is it just Matsumoto? Like, there was, like, things were hinted at, like, potentially with his child, like, there was childhood, that there was potential there. Like, he, back in Soul Society, he was being all sinister and acting out against the Soul Society, but there was also the flashbacks with Matsumoto where he had another side to himself. And so far, all that we really know of that other side is just that he wanted to betray Aizen. So, like, it's all... I feel like a lot of what was shown with Gin is just plot-relevant stuff, but not really, like, thematic... Like, there's no... I don't feel a lot of thematic depth with Gin, or, like what I was going to say earlier about... Kind of what I was going to say earlier about Bleach was that I think Bleach has a good... It has, like, it tells a good plot, but not, like... It's going to be weird to differentiate between the two, but, like, with Bleach, I feel as though it has a... like, its plot works, but as a narrative, like, with the themes and stuff, it's messy. Whereas, like, say, Naruto has a lot of plot things that are weird, but obviously there's a theme going throughout that, makes sense.
It
and so
together,
with Gin, I feel like
Bleach,
he connects to the plot, but he doesn't really connect to, like, a narrative idea, like a theme.
Right, because it's kind of there with the protection thing in Ichigo, but even then, I'm not even quite 100% sure on that myself, because I'm like, I just kind of noticed it, and I'm like, is it really there though? Like with the creepiness thing, like maybe that's just me just thinking. Maybe if I go back, I'm like, oh no, there's not really a connection there. So I don't know.
And I will admit, there's also part of me that's salty that Soul Reapers don't die, but if anyone's gonna die, it's Gin, the only one I care about. Okay, that's a lie. I don't. There are other good characters in the series, but, like, I wanted Gin to be more than just a character design, and he isn't much of that. Unless I'm missing something with his character, which I hope I am. I hope Gin's actually a really complex character that, he can be my favorite character in the series, but it's even worsened by the fact that he's dead, or seemingly dead. They say he's dead, but this is Bleach, so I don't know. And so, like, there's no reason to really dig more into his character, because if he's actually dead, then what really can be explored there? Whereas, like, with Tosen, if he's alive, then we could potentially get more elaboration on his story. Or, like, with Aizen. Aizen's got a character there. He's not dead. So, there's more we could look into there. With Gin, this is probably it, maybe.
Yeah.
And
Well, like, because comparing him to Deidara, like... Deidara wasn't the most, like, for me at least, not the most interesting character, but, like, just his flashback with Itachi, like, and sort of, like, and his ideals on what art is, like, there's more there, even if it's not, like, really connected to the other depths of Naruto. Or the other themes of Naruto. It's, like, there's something there, but with Gin, it's just love, I guess, and maybe protection, kinda? Like, it's, like, again, I feel like, I'm wondering if maybe there's something in Soul Society that would recontextualize the whole thing that we just missed because we didn't know where it goes, or maybe he's not dead. I don't know. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And especially like to draw a comparison to Naruto, because like with Bleach, assuming that maybe Gin just was meant to connect to the theme of protection, even in Naruto, where a lot of the the talk no jutsu victims like Pain and Obito, there's and Gaara, and there's something that connects them. There's like a narrative through line with them, but there's more to their characters beyond just that theme. Like there's differing ideals, backstories that show what they've done. Character, I don't know. I'm grasping at straws trying to figure out what I want to say because I haven't thought this through completely. But I don't know. Like with Gin, it just doesn't feel like there's substance to him. Like if he's connected to this theme, kind of which seems to be an important theme of protection, which especially was pretty big for this arc, given what happened with Ulquiorra, I would think that Gin would be pretty significant to this idea. I'm just not seeing it.
Right, like maybe someone in the comments will be give the Gin
please
defense, or
save Gin. Gin was supposed to be a good character. He's a good boy, but somebody save him.
Because that's like the thing is like. There's parts of Bleach where it's like we feel like there's something there, but we want to know, like it's interesting, and or at least for me, like I do want to know, even if I'm not the person who will figure it out myself. Like, see, if for One Piece, I know everything. Well, I don't know everything. I will know everything when I reread it. And so everyone, like, most of my like followers on Twitter just want me to talk about One Piece because they know they like it, but they don't know why in every single way. Because I always have the defenses for like, well, oh, people say this is bad. Well, no, it's actually good. And so it's like, I want that for Bleach. Like, I want to know the guy who knows Bleach because I'm curious about Bleach. It's interesting. Exactly because I don't get it, basically.
It's funny. So, Gin betrayed Aizen, and I feel like I've been betrayed by Kubo, because Gin was my character, and now I've betrayed the Nen Show audience. Gin was my boy, and now he's not. See, the thing is, like, he always looks aesthetic as fuck, though, because, like, even in his like, dying thing here, where Aizen, like, slashes through him, he still looks like a badass. But I want him to be more than a look, than an appearance, than a design. Kubo, why? Aizen, why? I fucking hate Aizen. Aizen can go.
Right? He just kills everyone. He's like, with Tosen, I'm just like, I was about to feel something there, like, oh, Komamura and Tosen still connected, even or they're on, even though they're on this opposite sides. And Aizen's just like, no, no more emotions.
There is a little panel here where Aizen's like evolution requires fear, the fear that one will perish if one remains stagnant. Thank you, Gin. Because of you, I can transcend Hollows and Soul Reapers. So, like,
right,
is
like,
that
it kind of
again
feels like
tying back to the thing with
Aizen.
fear at the very beginning with Izuru? Like, that was set up. So, like, I feel like that's part of Gin's character. Like, maybe because Gin feared Aizen.
Like, I think the issue is
Aizen feared him because, like,
the issue is that Gin isn't as much. His character is in service to Aizen, you know, like, or is in service to other things, not Gin specifically. Like, you wanted Gin, but instead Gin is there for Aizen. Like, because I didn't think about that until you just said it and reminded me. Because so that's like that fear there is kind of like, would you say is Gin following his ideals or contradicting his ideal, or Izuru's ideals on fear? Would you say? Because Izuru's ideals on fear were that, you know, so like. Because if he feared Aizen and his power and acted on that fear, but that's not really quite it. So, but he did show Aizen that fear in acting, so it's not like the idea is absent there. But again, it's just not, the focus isn't on Gin in Gin's big moment, which so I can see where you're, especially if you like Gin.
I mean, I'm trying to think now of a character who was in service of another character, but was still an interesting character. I feel like there's something in Naruto, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Well, anyways, this sort of like distrust thing that kind of connects to what was going on with Shinji and Aizen, that like there was that level of distrust there from the very beginning. So like, I don't know, because like Aizen even said that like he knew that Gin was going to betray him. He wanted to see how Gin would do it. So he was always kind of skeptical. You could maybe say, I don't know, Aizen never really feared him, but you could say that he had kind of like that distrust, a little bit of fear that like what's Gin gonna do. So, you know, the fear that he could perish, you know, he didn't remain stagnant because he kept Gin, you know, perhaps his biggest enemy by his side. But I feel like I'm just reaching. I'm just trying to find something to save Gin.
I will.
Yeah,
wait for
I'll let it go for now. But I feel betrayed.
Yeah,
Kubo betrayed me.
Because we still have one more fight to discuss. How did you feel about Ichigo versus Aizen?
It happened. I know there was we talked about the little thing with how Aizen couldn't sense him, just like he couldn't be sensed earlier by the Soul Reapers. That was interesting.
Right, and now Aizen can't sense Ichigo.
Like, I mean, Aizen's an interesting character. I kind of realized... he's his whole. I didn't screen cap any of the quotes, so I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But just the idea of like evolution.
He's got quite a few quotable lines.
Like he just.
One I noticed flipping through was his Ichigo was talking about the bonds and stuff, and Aizen's like, "That's the logic of a loser." I like the way he puts that. Just the logic of a loser. Like there's a bit of alliteration in there. It's good. But one thing I was gonna say, because back when he was fighting like Hitsugaya and Shinji, he kept like saying like they kept trying something. He's like, "Oh, did you really think that was going to work?" And then he kept doing stuff, and he's like, "Oh, did you really think that was Oh, did you really? Did you? Stop!" Like that was kind of the sense I got from it, because he kept trying to say shit like that. And then when Ichigo kept like showing him up, he kept he keeps rejecting reality, like, which fits a guy who does illusions for his thing.
Like, because he's finally faced with something that he doesn't understand, and so he's...
Right.
And that's kind of what Urahara brings up.
And that's exactly how... Well, because the thing is, it's like, when, No, I don't think it was Gin. Maybe it was Gin.
Well, especially for someone like Aizen, who, he planned everything out. Like, he predicted basically everything up to this point, and now he's faced with something he didn't predict.
Right, well, he seems to understand everything. But the thing is like earlier before is when he was fighting Ishin and Urahara and them, I think he was wounded and the he was like the Hogyoku finally is starting to understand who I am. And I definitely think because I was mentioning it to you in private before, or maybe even back with the Grimjo stuff, was how like Ichigo's thing is that because he doesn't understand, but he's always willing to learn and understand others. Well, like with Grimjo, like, you like fighting, don't you? And yeah, Ichigo's like, well, yeah, but there's he has to sort of contextualize those beliefs with his own. And I think there's probably other examples that I don't remember because I didn't know, get it per se. So, but with Aizen, it's like, well, firstly, like, what you have is this training arc where it's like, he sort of has to understand himself, where he kept saying he wanted to protect others, but now it's like, because what happens is Zangetsu and Hollow Ichigo they say that they want to the thing they want to protect the most is Ichigo, but they are Ichigo. So the thing Ichigo most wants to protect is Ichigo. He doesn't, like, again, what I said earlier, he doesn't want to get hurt by losing others. Like, that's, like, so there's a selfishness there. And now Ichigo finally understands himself, basically. But, but now Aizen doesn't understand Ichigo. But then the other thing is that I feel like Ichigo understands Aizen, though, because, like at the end, after the fight, Ichigo talks about how the Hogyoku, no, it wasn't the Hogyoku. Well, it did reject Aizen, but there was also he talked about how Aizen sort of wanted to be understood, by others, and like, he wanted people to see things from his perspective. Like Aizen, he was so. Like, he was just disconnected with people, but Aizen never tried to really understand everyone else. Like, he kind of did, but, and he was always, like, a step ahead, but then, he kind of stood out, but he wasn't able to sort of, like, be, with everyone. So he distanced himself, while Ichigo didn't understand anything, and then he worked to understand, and then, the bond, like, again, the sort of, like, the bonds of protecting. Well, because, and again, mutual protection, like, what did Aizen want to protect? Nothing, himself. So it's like, there's nothing to it, so it's like, yeah. And I guess the way I saw it was that because Aizen no longer understood everything, because he didn't understand Ichigo, and Ichigo, did understand Aizen, the Hogyoku rejected Aizen, so he lost, basically. That's sort of how I saw it. So I thought the conflict was pretty interesting, because you have Aizen, like, the fight itself is like, they're fighting, they're doing big explosion things. Mountains are getting destroyed. Like, the art was good. Like, there's the big Getsuga thing with, like, there's the big landscape shot and the giant black shadow over it. Like, stuff like that looks cool. But, I like the character conflict, too. I thought there was some interesting things to take away from it. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say. Do you have anything else to say, aside from things happen, but now do you feel like you understand it a little better?
Like, I mean, I didn't dislike this fight, but you kind of touched on most of the interesting bits. Like, I don't know, is the climax to this arc, like, it felt like the climax of the arc, but at the same time, it just, I don't know, like, I can't think of the arc ending in any other way, but at the same time, it feels like there's a lot of steps along the way that were just missed. So it's not, doesn't feel as satisfying, like, I guess.
I mean, like Ichigo and Aizen haven't really interacted up to this point, but at the same time, like, yeah, that's kind of the thing, because Ichigo didn't understand. Ichigo understands others through fighting them, so he can't understand Aizen until they actually fight, and so he couldn't really fight Aizen.
Yeah, this definitely isn't as bad as like Naruto showing up to beat Kakuzu in the Katsuki suppression thing, where the two characters have no connection whatsoever, or very little connection.
Like, even if they don't have a connection, again, I find it interesting the way they contrast each other.
If anything, maybe this feels a little disappointing in that it's because this arc was so long and it was so epic in scale, I mean, not necessarily epic as in, oh, this was so great to read. But it was such a long arc that, like, Because it was so long, like, I'm expecting a really big, really impressive payoff, and I mean, it was a good payoff. It worked, but
I think the thing is like, because I do think this arc you could cut out quite a few things and not really change a lot, like some of the earlier fights with the protecting the pillars, like, because again, there's so many ideas here. Kubo maybe could have stood to sort of dial it back a little bit. You know, like, it is nice to see all these characters get everything, but then how much of it really mattered, you know, not like Ichigo fighting like everything Ichigo did mattered. So and you know, things connected to him, like Rukia's stuff and Huecamundo, you know, that built up to, like, but then no one else got the final payoff in the end except Ichigo, really. So yeah. Like, again, with Orihime, they had the build-up, but the payoff wasn't quite there. She was just there in service to Ichigo, which okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Sure. Oh, no. Or if... Oh, no.
What?
Gin was to Aizen what Orihime was to Ichigo.
No! That's pretty funny. But anyway, I guess I don't have anything more to say about the Aizen fight. So yeah, I guess it ends, it wraps up. Ichigo, you know, he understood Aizen more than Aizen understood Aizen, perhaps. And then, you know, Ichigo is no longer able to use his powers, so he's like, so he finally, I guess, you know, since he only wanted to protect himself, and now he can't protect anyone, but I guess, I feel like this is stuff that, if I don't have the answer now, then maybe it's stuff. Because that's the thing, is it's not over. Like, could this have been, like, see, I don't feel like now having actually read it, I feel like I do feel like there's more to be said. Like, you know, with Ichigo in particular, you know, like, it doesn't feel like, it's obviously not presented in a way that it's going to be to end, and the end, it's like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a new arc. Next volume, like, he did the fucking Toriyama thing where he had to tell the readers that the story isn't over. because like, what was it? At the end of one of the tournaments, the
very last one
Toriyama
before
was
the pre-Z split, even though the manga wasn't split, but because it felt that conclusive.
Okay, yeah,
that like he just felt the need to clarify.
Right, because it felt conclusive. Well, because that's what we were talking about earlier. How with Bleach, it's like this could have been the final arc, you know, but actually reading it, I feel like. You know, like, yeah, I feel like there's more to be say with Ichigo's character. Like, you know, even if I don't like him as much as Luffy or Naruto, like, it's not as though he's like, I already said that earlier. It's like, I'm getting stuff out of his character. He's fine. He's an interesting character. Like, and I want to see more of him. I'm a little fearful for the next arc, because the next arc is apparently the worst in the series. But I still want to read it because it's Bleach, and Bleach is kinda
interesting
neat.
that you brought up Dragon Ball, because I was thinking about this earlier, that Bleach seems to kind of there are certain things about Dragon Ball that I don't know if I want to say that Bleach borrows it, but it seems pretty clear that there's some inspiration there, and in a sense I feel like
all three of the big three, yeah.
So yeah, there is inspiration there, and in a sense, I feel like Bleach improved, because I feel like Bleach feels the most like Dragon Ball then again, I haven't read much One Piece, so I can't make this claim, but it feels...
It depends on in what way. Like, I feel like Naruto is kind of the least Dragon Ball. Like, One Piece sort of takes Dragon Ball and just does it better. And Bleach takes different things from... Like, in the way it sort of structures its story with things kind of happening, and the way it's like there's lots of fights.
The difference with like Bleach and Dragon Ball up to this point is that like there has very clearly been like a big thematic, or not thematic, but like plot elements have been foreshadowed beforehand and clearly setting things up. Toriyama, because everything was written mostly on the fly, not a lot of foreshadowing exists in Dragon Ball. Right. In a way, I feel like Bleach does improve on some of Dragon Ball's format, but at the same time, I also feel like it makes some of the same mistakes that Dragon Ball did. So, like, right here, you even drew the connection to the tournament arc, where it ends, and it feels super conclusive, but it's not really the end. And, like, at least with Bleach, like, there's clearly, there are some details that exist that can be built upon. Like, there's something with Hitsugaya, you know, the fact that he couldn't protect Hinamori.
Yes,
so there's something there.
Right.
There's Ichigo,
and then
obviously.
Matsumoto's sort of thinking about Gin. So.
But then...
Yeah. Well, because, like, for me, it's like, well, for Ichigo's character specifically, it feels like the story isn't over, like, personally. Like, but I can see why some people might assume it was. Like, that's actually happening with, I'm not reading it right now, but Hajime no Ippo apparently just ended, like, basically it's Act 2, like, the main character is at his lowest point. But people who don't understand storytelling are like, oh, Ippo's ending with such a shitty ending, it doesn't make any sense. Like, because that's the thing. This is still kind of Ichigo's lowest point.
Yeah, because he lost his Soul Reaper powers.
I feel like this is the end of Act 2. Because I feel like with the Ulquiorra thing, that was the end of Act 2 for just this fake Karakura Town arc. But then now, at the end of this arc, is Ichigo's end of Act 2 for the entire story. So, that's kind of how I feel. Like, because he's going to get his powers back. Somehow, it's Bleach. This is like the third time this has happened. We know, like, it happened with Ishida, it happened with Ichigo, at the end of Soul Society. We know it's going to happen. So the question is, again, how and why? Like, what? And again, I'm worried because the next arc is apparently shit.
My concern, like, with Bleach is that, like, with Dragon Ball, with the way it ended that tournament arc, it really, like, there had to be some sort of, like, a soft reset after that. Like, things that would happen. But with Bleach, there's a little more to carry it over. But really, what plot threads are left? Like, what major, like, think of everything that was resolved here. Like, Aizen's defeated. The whole Gyoku was taken care of. Gin is done, seemingly. Tosen is seemingly done. Maybe. Who knows? So, like...
Right, the Arrancar are basically, like, all the Espadas are dead, pretty much, except for, like, Nell, who's not
because what we had even said with, like, Soul Society had set up a lot of the plot threads that would build into this arc. I mean,
the only things that, like, we don't know anything about the Zeroth Division, the Royal Guard. We don't know really anything about the Soul King. So there's, like these things that could be brought up. Like, it's different. Like, with Dragon Ball, it's, like, I can't think of anything that wasn't resolved, really. Like...
Yeah, because Dragon Ball... It almost felt like it just, I don't want to say started over, but, like, obviously you can go back and retroactively change things, because even then there's the whole, like, Toriyama should have ended things at the Frieza or Cell arc or whatever, but, like, in the later arcs, he was able to go back and kind of expand on plot threads he had set up in previous arcs. So, like, Gohan, for example, if things had actually ended in the Frieza arc, then he never would have had his fight with Cell. He never would have sort of... Goku would have never passed the torch,
because,
so
like,
to
with
speak.
Cell and Buu, you had or attempted to pass the torch.
So, like, there were things to go back and expand on, which Kubo can very clearly do. There was the thing with Ikkaku earlier, like, he made that mistake in the fight and lost, so maybe he'll go back to that if Ikkaku shows up again. And then, obviously, Hitsugaya. Yeah. And I'm sure there's some other characters who have little things. Maybe something will happen with Matsumoto because Gin's dead, maybe.
See, we just need to fucking finish it so we'll know all this shit. We'll know who's dead and who's alive.
But I just know, like, when I finished reading this, I was like, this felt like an ending. Like, this could have been the end, and because there isn't a whole lot of foreshadowing to set up a bunch of stuff for the future, and then plus I already know people have said that Bleach goes downhill.
Story event-wise, I agree. Like, there aren't any plot threads to go forward with, but character... development wise, like with Ichigo's arc, I already explained, like, with his character, he is not at his end, so in that I felt like there was more. And for me, to go.
I'm probably
but yeah, event wise, no, it could if the story were handled in a way that Ichigo's character arc was completed here instead of obviously, you know, at the end, just the end of Act 2, then yeah, I feel like there could have been it could have ended here, but like that's just me though. So.
And then I'm probably also a little more skeptical just because of what happened with Gin, and so now I'm kind of questioning Kubo's character writing.
We don't know reality when it comes to Bleach because, well, the thing with the character death is like, because I mean, we haven't had any major like revivals really, like a character we thought was dead came back. I mean, there was some in Soul Society, like with characters getting really injured.
Yeah.
But this whole stretch, like this whole arc, that hasn't really happened. Like, and there have been some almost guaranteed character deaths, like with a lot of the Espada, especially. I mean, you had like Hiyori getting ripped in half, but that was like a whole thing where it's like we need to keep her healer to make sure she stays alive until we can get Orihime here, and they can really repair her, or some Unohana or something like that. So that was like a whole thing. but it was called attention to.
But then I'm also trying to think.
I don't know.
Because, like, Gin makes me question a lot of things. Like, not just because the meme is Gin's my boy, but also, like, with a lot of these characters, they're cool, but what more is there to them? Like, this is something I wanted to touch on. Because Bleach is such a long story, I feel as though Kubo, perhaps if he is going to expand more on these characters, he's taking too long to do it. Like, I shouldn't have to read... Like, we're 400 chapters... I think we're over halfway through Bleach now, and there are still a lot of these characters that I don't really understand what makes them them. Like, how they tick. Like, what are their big...
Yeah, well, I do think Kubo could have stood to consolidate a bit, combine characters in the planning stages, obviously.
There is one thing to say about...
the story, the combined fusion dance. No.
There is one thing to say about, like, I know someone had, I think it was in the Bleach failed masterpiece video that it was brought up, like, because the Arrancar arc was so long, that's why it felt like, because it was padded more for time, that's why it felt more like an ending. But, like, there is certainly a case to make for padding, as I've made over the course of this podcast, but...
Like, hypothetically, if all the characters had interesting fights... And, then, like, it wouldn't have been an issue. I mean, there would have still been an issue, like, was this necessary? Which is definitely the case. But if they had been good, then I guess they would have been necessary. Like, yeah. Because, again, like, thematically, if there was, like, an overall thing... Because I guess that's the thing. Bleach is, it's very... I don't want to say it's character-driven, but it's very character-focused. Like, because, again, each character has their own ideas they're exploring. But I don't really think those ideas... from the arc as a whole really meshed together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely begs the question of, like, okay, why did we need this fight between the fucking Charlotte and Yumi Chika? Why did we need that fight? Like, there's an idea there, but, like, things happen, but did we really need the fight? Probably not. Does that make it bad? Maybe, maybe it's
I think the thing with, like, what I'm trying to get to with Bleach being too long is that there are, like... There's the idea that, it shouldn't take X amount of time to get invested into a character. It shouldn't take X amount of time to show off the interesting aspects of a character. So, like, looking at Naruto, for example, like, for some of the characters that appear in the Chunin exams, some of them don't really do much after that arc, but somebody like, say, like Shikamaru maybe, or, like, these characters, you are able to kind of get inside their heads relatively early on. Like, it certainly doesn't take 400 chapters to figure out who Shikamaru is and, how he operates.
No, well, but at the same, though, I will point out that, like, the thing with Bleach chapters is, like, one Bleach chapter doesn't read the same as one Naruto chapter. So, like I was saying earlier about how I could read all of Bleach in half the time I could read Naruto easily. Maybe, that's just how it feels.
Bleach chapters aren't as dense, so really, you're saying it would be more fair to compare, like, I'm just throwing out a number, but, like, one Naruto chapter to, say, 3 or 4 Bleach chapters, like, that would be a fairer...
2 or 3, maybe, but yeah, that's kind of a... Just, again, that's just how Bleach is read to me, how it feels like it's even supposed to be read, because, again, I feel like just the way the panels flow... is quick and easy to read. Like, I've never felt lost, like, because I could pick out, like I mean, like, with, again, to mention Fairy Tail for the third fucking time, the best aspect of it is Hiro Mashima's art. And it's not that it's, like, it's decent, it's good. It's not bad, it's not great, but there are a couple, like, I could point out some panels where it's like, oh, there's a little art mistake, or this 2-page spread makes no fucking sense to me. But I've never had that with Bleach. I've pretty clearly been able to tell, like, okay, this kind of thing is happening. Like with, you were mentioning the Gin thing earlier, but that feels like it was more on you just because you were kind of, like, the whole, you were expecting it and you didn't get it so many times, and when you did get it, your first instinct was that you didn't get it, so,
yeah, from the art standpoint.
I'm not sure quite how, but it's like, I've never, everything's always been clear, I think it's interesting because it's like, yeah, it's just like I do think he's a good artist, because and just trying to think of, like, how he puts out some, he did this for fucking how many years, it's good, but I forget what my main point was, so...
I guess it would be easier if there was a longer story. Like, I mean, Naruto's 700 chapters, around the same length as Bleach, but from what I've heard, Bleach was supposed to be way longer than it actually was, so it might be more accurate to compare it to, like, One Piece. Well, like, maybe my complaint is that there aren't enough short-term payoffs in Bleach. Like, because everything is so stretched out. Not necessarily that it's stretched out, but because it's kind of structured to be... Like, this arc was, like, 300 or 200 some odd chapters. So, like, it was structured to be a very long arc. And so you have to be willing to invest for that long to get to the payoffs for that arc. But, like, in the short term...
Right, and the way we read isn't really made for... We're not reading Bleach in the most optimal way. But the way what I was going to say is, because earlier I've said it before, when I thought Bleach had gotten canceled, because Kubo, like, the fact that he's structuring his story... to work more on a long-term level than a short-term level is, like, it's something he can only do with the manga, pretty much. Like, I mean, you can't draw a book, you know? You can write a book, but you can't draw a book. Like, Bleach would not work in pure text.
No, absolutely not.
No, right. So it's like... So, it's a shame that his ambition outlived his body. I mean, I outlived as if he died. But, like, he physically could not finish Bleach. That's what seems to be the case. So it's like, you know, Bleach is meant to be, like, this long story that you buy all the volumes for, and you can reread. So, because, like, let's say it ended up as 1,000 chapters. Now, if we talk about the Density thing, that's really only 500 chapters. So it's like, if those quote-unquote 500 chapters of Bleach were as dense as, like, 500 chapters of Naruto, that's a pretty fair comparison. But it's like, we didn't get that, because, again, Bleach didn't actually end, and, so it's like... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's Bleach is, like I said several times, Bleach is interesting. You know, not amazing personally. Like it does some cool things. And I've gotten some interesting ideas out of it. It's definitely interesting. Like, why are all the big three good? That's weird to me, because I've only seen people shit on the big three for the last fucking 10 years, 10 plus years. People have been shitting on the big three, but they're all actually pretty good. Not perfect, but good.
I'm interested to see, like, where we'll stand at the end of this, because you seem to like Bleach way more than I do. Like, I'm not saying Bleach is bad, but I'm definitely thinking, I'm sitting around, like, it's okay. Like,
well, even me, it's like, I think I'd say it's good more than okay. Like, I'd probably give it, like, maybe a light to decent 7. Maybe?
Right now? I think my hopes were that, like, by the end of this, Bleach would get a 6, and now, depending on, like, where... See, because there's still more to go, and perhaps it's because my expectations are low, knowing that, you know, supposedly things only get worse from here. So, like...
Well, because the thing is, like, the next arc sucks, apparently, and the final arc ends before it should have ended. So... Which means there's gonna be a lot of setups that don't get their payoffs, I presume. Because knowing how Kubo writes so many characters, like, I think I remember someone putting it like Ichigo gets his payoff. Like, so everything Ichigo related gets resolved, basically. So all the other characters don't get that, which is gonna be the disappointing part. Is everyone else, maybe, from what I've heard. So yeah, so it's like you're not enjoying, like, because I guess to finally say my thoughts is like. You know, the Arrancar, like, I guess it's actually more of a saga. Like, you can kind of divide it into 3 arcs. But, as a whole saga, I would honestly say I like Arrancar better than Soul Society. Like, yeah, there were lots of slow parts. Like, the Hueco Mundo was kind of Maybe I'd feel differently if I reread Soul Society. But right now, I feel like I got more out of Arrancar than I did Soul Society.
I can see why you would. So. I guess it's just tough for me to, like...
Oh no,
because Soul Society was most of Soul Society was in service of the Arrancar arc, so it would stand to reason that the Arrancar arc would be better. I'm just not entirely committed to that idea, I guess.
No, you were. I don't. I mean, even the good parts, you're just kind of like, it's fine. Like for the good parts that you liked. I mean, like what was your favorite part? How would you rank? Like I'm not going to rank. I don't want to split up the arcs and try and rank them against Soul Society and the Age of the Shinigami or the Lost Age or whatever. Like I don't want to. That's why I'm rating it as Arrancar arc. It's like with Hebi. I don't want to try and rank the individual arcs. But how would you rank the 3? The fake Karakura town, the Hueco Mundo, and the Arrancar invasion? How would you rank those three against each other?
See, the interesting thing with Bleach is that, like, entertainment-wise, like, oh, this is a cool thing to read. I would probably still put the very first arc highest. But, like, as far as interest value, I'd probably reverse everything. So, like, there's a lot here that I think is interesting. It just wasn't very entertaining.
Okay, but in the first one, you thought it was entertaining, but there wasn't a lot about that was interesting, per se. Okay. Yeah, because I think, because for me, I definitely put the Hueco Mundo as my least favorite. Because Fake Karakura Town, it's like there are more useless, pointless fights, but I didn't mind them.
Oh, wait, you were talking about...
good fights I took.
Were you talking about just the 3 parts of the Arrancar arc?
Yes.
Oh, shoot, I was talking about the three arcs.
No. I was talking about the 3 Arrancar arcs against each other. Like, how would you rank Fake Karakura Town, Hueco Mundo, and Arrancar Invasion? How would you rank those 3 against each other?
It's so tough because the first half of each is always bad, but then the second half is good. I might actually put this part above the rest because, like, it's the payoffs for, like, Gin and Tosen and Aizen and Ichigo. Like, there's a lot here. The Grimjo fight had some depth to it.
Grimjo was good, and I did like Kenpachi and Byakuya, like the Soul Reapers coming in, but the first half of the arc wasn't very good. The second half had Rukia's fight was good. So there were some good fights there, but even then, the best fights weren't as interesting as like Ichigo versus Ulquiorra, even though I didn't fully get it, or Aizen versus Ichigo, where I'm pretty sure I did get it.
What I said about the 3 arcs might actually sort of apply a little bit here, because I remember, like, the very first third of this arc, there was a fight like Ikkaku with his Bankai. Like, that was cool. It wasn't super interesting, but it was cool. But then, like, Ikkaku losing to the guy, just to stick with Ikkaku for a moment, like, Ikkaku losing to the guy not protecting the pillar, that wasn't cool, but it was interesting. Wasn't entertaining, but there was, like, something character to dig into there.
Because I feel like the Fake Karakura Town was definitely more interesting than Hueco Mundo, but I might put the Arrancar Invasion at the top just because, well, like I said at the time, it kind of mixed what was good about Soul Society with what was good about the Substitute Soul Reaper arc. So that might be, like, as far as like interesting thing goes, I'm not sure if it's like those two are it's close between Karakura Town and that one. So yeah. That's kind of my overall feelings on arc rankings right now.
And I'm guessing just overall, like, I guess my stance on Bleach is, like, I'd still say it's fine now. Like, it's still okay. It's still a little good. I wouldn't say that it's great.
A little good.
I wouldn't say that it's great, but it's good. And then I guess I'm just like, whatever comes next could potentially pull it down. Like, that could...
That's the fear, especially the next arc, which is apparently unanimously... I would maybe not unanimously considered the worst, but it's not well liked.
So, like, right now, I'm still saying I would give Bleach a 6, but I'm perhaps expecting that with the rest, like,
a 5,
that it might drop.
I'm currently at a 7. I hope it doesn't go to a 6, but yeah, I can only hope until we read it. So yeah, thank you for listening. I don't think we have anything more to say. Oh, next time we are reading the Lost Agent Fullbring arc, which is
only 55 chapters. Oh my god, it's a short one.
Only 55 chapters. Chapters 424 to 479. So not that long a read, relatively speaking. And of course, after that, we're gonna go deep into some 100-chapter sub-arcs of the 1,000-Year Blood War. Because we're almost done with Bleach. We are 2/3 of the way done with Bleach. It's fucking surreal to have us, after 14 episodes of Naruto, to have... And this was actually our longest discussion of Bleach yet. We're getting more than 2.5 hours. I don't know how long it's going to be after I cut it up. But yeah, pretty long discussion.
I will say,
we had some...
I am definitely sad that potentially in future episodes I won't get to talk about Gin anymore. And...
No!
So, like, even though I just railed on his character in this podcast, like, I'm still upset because I was so excited. And now,
good night, sweet prince. Pour out a drink for Gin. Pour out some gin for Gin.
It's like if I was in a relationship, like if he was my true husbando. Now we're separated, and I. So, like, the feelings are still there, but It just won't work out. I'm sorry, Geen.
It's like he cheated on you when he attacked Aizen and died. I don't know. Maybe. All right, we're going. Bye. Thanks for listening.